Welcome, guys. This time I am doing the introduction.
Yeah.
So with me here again is the good old dear Sammy
Yo, hi.
and me, old boring Raith, who's always the critical asshole.
You're not boring.
No, no, I didn't say boring. I did say boring in the sense I usually don't like mainstream and stuff. And
it's okay.
kind of important because today we're talking about our highlights or anti-highlights of 2017. There were a lot of game releases this year, surprisingly.
Mm-hmm.
And before we start, I have a question of conviction for you, Sammy. And the question is, the name of the main character of Persona 5, is it Amamiya Ren or is it Kurus Akira?
I can tell you right now, I already heard about it, and I can just safely say I don't give a fuck. In my save file, this guy's name is Sammy, and that's fine for me too. So I don't give a fuck if it's Ren or Akira. I like Akira a little more, but I mean, who cares?
It's the same for me. I just found it so funny because it was a case for Persona 3 and 4 too, where the manga and the anime names were different and nobody cared, you know. Some did prefer something over the other. Well, with Persona 4 it was the anime name. With Persona 3 too, because the animes for Persona 4 and 3 were just more popular than the manga. With Persona 5, the manga was first, and no surprise, people prefer the name Kurus Akira.
I mean, sure, because they've kinda now saw that name everywhere, and they kind of just took the name for him and used it for the last few months, so they got used to it. And after that, it's now a different name. So maybe it's dumb to change that, but in the end, it's just a name. So people shouldn't get so overexcited about something that so trivial.
I agree for the kind of thieves. Kurus Akira is a cooler name just from the phonetics.
Yeah, sure.
But you know what? What does it matter?
It doesn't matter at all. I mean, we always had these and when I think about the past, we always had these kind of things on German television when animes came out, and we got different names. Instead of Luffy, we got Ruffy. He's called Ruffy.
Yeah,
in Germany.
but the most of the time that's the fault of America, because America changed these names.
Right.
Because with some anime we actually have the Japanese names, which is extremely confusing. But well, you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but in the German, like I just brought up Luffy to Ruffy because America didn't do that. America called him Luffy too. That was only Germany calling him Ruffy. And you know what? I love the Germans for that change, because I think Luffy sounds stupid and Ruffy sounds so much more cool.
Yeah, but I think Luffy suits the character much more because he isn't really that cool of a character.
He's a Luffy.
Yes, he's a Luffy, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I first read the manga, in my head, his voice was a little manlier from what we heard on TV. But then I thought, okay, the change was okay. Yeah, but let's not dive into that. That was just an example.
Yeah, and what we do today, we are discussing our favorites, our what's the opposite of favorites? Worst nightmares.
Yeah, we are talking about our nightmares of 2017. And
yeah, well
okay,
we
but
categorized
first, let's just say this episode is about the recap of 2017, right? We are almost at the end of 2017, and we just wanted to talk about what was the good, the bad, and the bizarre of 2017.
which is totally not based on a movie quote, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
No. That's no.
Totally coincidental.
Yeah.
And yeah, because we are both JoJo fans, I think the bizarre is quite descriptive of that special category.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the stuff we couldn't fit either into the good or the bad, or just things that totally baffled us and we just not really sure
Yeah.
how to properly include it, but it is necessary as a review or a recap of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, with that being said, do we want to start with a bad?
We can sure start with a bad. What do you have on your bad list, Mr. Santa? No, Wraith. I mean, Christmas is over, right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the bad. The first thing I really started to hate in this year is A1 Pictures.
The anime
I
studio.
really have to say, before that, I was just saying, well, the animes they produce are bad. But now I'm really starting to hate them because they're really just doing cash cows. And this year, at the expense of Fate Apocrypha. I'm a huge Fate fan. And this adaptation is just ugly as shit. And just a terrible adaptation in general. It's just... They only have one good track that plays for everything, and you're like, maybe some different music at a time. Most of the character don't get any screen time at all, or not even the explanation. Fate is most of the time about a war between several masters, magicians, that summon heroic spirits to fight with them against each other. And kind of the meat of the show is learning about these characters, but we learned about so few of them that caring about them was like, yeah, no,
impossible.
I don't really care. Yeah, and the people, there was quite a debate on people because many people said the animation were bad and posted screenshots, and others said, well, you can't just judge an animation just by a still shot. And I agree, but most people just don't have the capabilities to make GIFs or to post on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they were justified. There were a lot of horrible animations in every episode. And I don't mean that, of course, Blu-ray is always going to fix stuff. Just look at JoJo's, where really the Blu-rays almost fix everything. So much is redrawn. If I look at part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable, I just saw yesterday where someone listed images and they could switch between the anime and the Blu-ray version, and they for a lot of stuff they completely redrew a lot of scenes.
Yes.
And
for example, there was the first scene with Killer Queen, which was completely revamped, which looked amazing in the Blu-ray version.
And that's okay, but Diamond Unbreakable was by no means a bad animation show when it aired. It was still good looking.
Yeah.
There were bad parts, but if you actually pay for JoJo and buy the Blu-rays, that is fixed, But I don't know. I think they have to completely reanimate at least half the episodes for this to be good. Looking. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's not gonna happen, I guess.
No, and that's the thing with A1. They kind of do a cash grab every season now. They have every season an anime, which not every studio does. Heck, Ufotable, with their great animations, you always see how they have to do breaks. If they do just one anime per season, they are struggling. And A1 is, shitting out anime adaptations no matter what. Every fucking season, and not even one anime per season, sometimes even 2 or 3. Like, stop it. Just, make some quality. You have the money. You're earning shitload of money with fucking shit art online. Take a step back, for Jesus.
Shit art online, I would watch that.
And when did it change? It used to be Studio Dean that sucks, but now Studio Dean is on a rise, and A1 Pictures is a new Studio Dean, which is just so weird.
I mean, I can only agree to what you are saying because just out of funsies, I just put up a list of animes they did since they started, and they started out in 2006, so they were they're still like a new generation type of animation studio. They're doing this for 11 years now. Um, and I mean, about the stuff that they did so far, of course, there's good stuff as well, but mostly, I mean, last year they did the Ace Attorney anime, which I really, really didn't like. Um, they so many Idol Master things that I don't care about so much. Fairy Tail, I don't care about that. Sword Art Online, I don't care about that. Not everything is bad. I mean, Magic Kaito is okay for what I saw for the first two episodes that I saw, but most of the stuff that they did was so uninspired. Most of the
Bland.
licenses they got.
It's so bland and
Yeah.
not really creative at all. I think the only anime I liked in recent times was Qualdia Code, and that was so bad it was good. When there were the students used AK-47s, and in one screenshot they really looked like if they used cardboard to make these AK-47. So bad did they look. But the show was really terrible, but it was fun because it was absolutely terrible. And I think that was an accident. It wasn't intentionally.
Oh.
But I did enjoy my time just because I had to laugh so bad it was.
Wraith, can you tell me the Persona 4, the golden animation, was that any good? Or
It was okay.
Oh.
It wasn't the greatest thing, but with Persona 4, the animation, I'm like, that's more like individual character.
Individual.
Yes, fuck me. There were character moments that were really well made and really enjoyable. So a lot of these fun interaction stuff was really good.
Okay.
And it was quite comedic. Like, I still enjoyed it with the use of music and and stuff. It wasn't the best, but I think people were too hard on criticizing it. I still think that was enjoyable.
I mean, I'm just saying that because I just want to make clear we're not hating on A1 Pictures because we hate everything they do, because they did do okay stuff. I mean, they do the Nanatsu no Taizai anime, which is great so far. But
I really like that, for example.
Yeah, me too. But what they did the last few years, for the most part, just sucked. I mean, and last year they did Erased as well. Erased was like my favorite anime that year, with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I think Erased was okay. I hated the bad ending, the bad adaptation of the ending.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I kind of like the ideas. And for the most part, it was a splendid adaptation. So 90% of it was really not true to the original in that way, but it delivered very well, and it had a very nice pacing. Yeah.
And the bad, also one of my points is more Sword Art Online adaptation. Really, that I don't know if people call themselves gamers and say, well, Sword Art Online is a good gaming anime, and I'm just like, no. As a gamer, this offends me. All the games that are presented in there are stupid, flawed, and just terrible games in general.
For someone who stopped in the halfway through Gun Gale Online, what other games did they play after that?
After that, they returned to the Alfheim Online. But I only know it. I haven't watched it. Because I dropped in Gun Gale Online because at that point I
you too.
Just asked myself, why am I doing this to myself? It isn't going to get better.
One time my girlfriend was asking me, don't we want to continue? And I was like, man, did you have any fun the last like 10 episodes? And she was like, nah. And I was like, yeah, then let's not.
They milk it so hard. And here's the funny thing: the author of the original Sword Art Online, he's even doing new versions of his own novels because They are so bad that is doing, and that's just saying everything about this adaptation you ever
amazing.
need. And that's everything you need to know about Sword Art Online. And because of shit like this, I still have to wait for my third season of Log Horizon, which I think is, if you're into MMORPGs, that's the best anime you can get. It's not really that well done action, but every social interaction and what it means to do world building is so well done in Log Horizon. It has a catchy as fuck opening.
And I mean, for me, it's still Overlord that is the best MMO anime, but it has so little to do with the MMO aspect that I agree with you here.
Yeah, I mean, I like Overlord too, but Overlord 2 too.
Yeah, we'll get to
that.
This is
what is. Yeah. We're talking about that for next year, but yeah, moving on. What is some of the bad stuff from your year?
Some of the bad stuff from my year. When you just started with anime, so I would just get to anime as well. And the worst stuff for me, anime-wise, this year was there were too little shows that I cared about. And I mean, last year was amazing. We had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4. We had Erased. We had really, really cool stuff. Some really cool adaptation, but this year was just weak in terms of anime for me. The only things I got was finally a solid Hiroya Oku adaptation, which is called Last Hero Inuyashiki. I really like that. It's my anime of the year, simply. We are going to talk about that, or I'm going to talk about that in the end, but This year was just so weak when it came to anime. I liked Osomatsu Season 2. I'm still watching that. But most of the time, I was just really bored out. And I feel like more, for some time, most of the animation studios, what they did was if they didn't have any commissions or they didn't have any ideas, they just took older mangas that were great at its time and gave them a late adaptation, like Level E, for example, or Parasite. These got animes way after that time, but at least they got them. And animation studios did that right. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure started out in the 80s and got their anime now, their real anime.
Yeah, but that's with JoJo is a special case because the author said, I don't want a terrible adaptation,
right?
And it won't be mad until it suits my thoughts about it.
Yeah, and I mean, finally they got that right, so it's not all terrible. But this year was just so weak. I especially want to talk about, and not really talk about because we talked about it on a different podcast, and it's something that came up in 2016 but still continued in 2017, and it's Berserk. I can't wrap my head around. I didn't, last time we talked about it, I told you that, or I said in the podcast that I'm still going to watch the rest of the season 2. I still didn't do that. Because it spits in the face of people who love Berserk. It's really the animation didn't get any better. The CG didn't get any better. At least the only good thing I can say about it is that it has less CG than to the 2016 adaptation, but this is saying too little about it, and I'm just overall a little, I wouldn't say disappointed, but a little bored out of the whole seasons that we had this year. We had some great stuff. We had Foot Wars. We had, I don't know. We had, I guess, some Dragon Ball Super episodes were fine. But overall, really not as strong as the year as 2016 was.
Yeah, one show I have also on my bad list, and it's the last anime I have on my bad list is Macross Delta.
Mm-hmm.
I really hate what they did with Macross now. And you have to know, Macross started out with a triangle relationship between the main character pilot, an idol, and a military officer. And it was interesting because it was basically in the 80s already deconstructing the whole idol thing. You know, showing the bad side of being an idol. And I really loved that the anime, that the main character chose the military officer over the idol. They changed that with a movie with an alternative ending where he chose the idol. Never mind about that. I like the original more.
Okay.
Because he did choose the better girl in that, or better woman in that situation, and he sticked with her, which I really liked in the original. Now we have a complete idol group who are the main protagonist. I mean, fighting the enemies with songs was always kind of the stick of Macross. But now you really have this complete idol group that is no different from real life idols. And I'm just like, come on, this is the entire opposite of what Macross originally was. I was okay with Macross Frontier because it was a really good looking show. It had two idols as the main girls, but it still was interesting enough, and the main character was interesting enough to carry that show, so I wasn't offended by it. But now Macross Delta is just that shit. It could get a gacha game in the next few days, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
You know, like I really hated that, and it killed like the only interesting male character in episode 9, and that was the point where it said, "Oh fuck the show! I don't really care about it anymore." This whole idol shit, and I'm not totally against idol shit, but it's just more of the same.
Yeah.
And in general, when you mentioned that this year was weak, one trope that's really disgusting this year is the isekai trope.
Can you elaborate?
Isekai means a different world. So if characters are transported into a fantasy world.
Yeah, sure.
This used to be the cool shit, you know?
Yeah.
Having an adventure in a different world. But it doesn't need to be isekai. It doesn't need to be some asshole or reap from the real world that gets transported.
Yeah.
A good example for something that I have on the bizarre list is Made in the Abyss, which was like a good action series that wasn't an isekai. It was just a fantasy show.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't even action. Yeah. And that's one of the main cancers that is probably going to continue in 2080. 2018, hopefully not 2080. That would be fucked. In 2018, and in the season chart for winter 2017, 2018, there's already another isekai show. And like, stop it. Just stop it. Just be original and creative, and stop it with the isekai.
When you say stuff like that, what comes to mind immediately for me is shit like getting, I don't even know the name of the show anymore, but it's about that boy. The show was called something with in another world with my smartphone or something.
I didn't. And I just ignored it.
My brother was laughing at it and showing me the first episode, and we were like, "Oh man, this is a thing now."
Just anything with isekai, basically. Every anime title ever, anything with isekai. And there are good examples for isekais, but it's just so overwhelmed because there are like 50 million animes.
Yeah.
And you know, the two good ones are just disappearing in between. And
just for the record, I just wanna say this. In the smartphone show. The first thing that happens is the main character gets struck by lightning and dies. And he meets God, and God tells him that, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to kill you, I accidentally killed you. I'm gonna transplant you to a new world. Do you want to take anything with you? And he's like, yeah, okay, sure, I take my smartphone. This is the whole gist of this show. I shit you not. They did 24 episodes with a bullshit plot.
This sounds like a weak copy of Konosuba.
Yeah, kinda, yeah. A very weak copy, super weak.
Let's just move on.
Yeah, we can
together, and
we can move on.
The rest of the bad stuff I have remaining are about movies.
Okay, sure.
I actually don't have any bad gaming experience because I don't play games I think that are bad.
Sure.
It's just simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, it's really hard to buy a game full price by not knowing if it's good or not. Because you're always watching some review or you're looking up some tests about it. So it's getting harder to dig into the shithole of bad games.
Yeah, and if you're talking about bad movies, I mean, these two are ones we did talk about, both. So I think we both have them on our bad list, and that would be Death Note and The Ghost in the Shell live action adaptations or anime adaptations.
I only have Death Note because from these two I don't have Ghost in the Shell because I didn't watch Ghost in the Shell. I know it sucks. I don't care about it.
I didn't watch it either, but I've seen so much review. I basically saw the whole movie with all the reviews out there. I just decided I'm not wasting my money for a bad adaptation.
Yeah.
You know, I used to say I can't judge a movie if I haven't seen it. Then I generally... how do I say it? I just did watch Twilight then and after that I changed my opinion. I said, okay, I don't have to watch a movie to think it's bad because that was one of the worst experiences I ever had.
Okay, but let's not. Okay, do you want to say anything to Ghost in the Shell, or did we say anything we wanted to say to that?
We did talk about it in another podcast, and Death Note has its own podcast.
Right.
I have to say,
the only thing I want to say about Death Note, the only remaining thing, is that 2 days ago I watched The Room with Tommy Wiseau, and I had more fun with this movie than with Death Note. That's it.
I just want to say in general, if you do live action anime adaptations, don't make it a direct adaptation. Make it a prequel, sequel, or spin-off to an existing story.
Yeah.
And try to think about what you really want to adapt and what not. You know, but last week we talked about Battle Angel Alita. And how stupid these anime eyes are.
Yes.
Really think about what of the story you're going to adapt and in what way. I still think live adaptations can work. I'm still looking very much forward to two Japanese ones that really did sell well.
Yeah.
For one thing, Gintama, which the trailers already looked great. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing the Gintama live action movie. And the other one was with this Esper guy, which is a comedy anime, which is not full length.
Oh, yeah.
With the pink hair and the alien antennas. I'm just not remembering the name. But the trailer for that also looked really funny and great.
Yeah.
So I'm also intending to watch that.
I'm looking forward to Blade of the Immortals an international release. I mean anything.
Me too.
I mean most cases Takashi Miike is doing fine, so I'm having faith in this movie.
Yeah, and the trailer looked fun as hell, so
yeah, sure.
I'm actually quite looking forward to that too. So yeah, a bad movie on your side. I still have two things left.
So a bad movie on my side. How could it not be? It's of course Justice League. it's not that this movie sucked so bad that I wanna rip everything about it apart. It's that it's so boring. Like, I can tell you right now a situation. I watched it in the cinema. I was sitting there in my chair, and my girlfriend was next to me, and I was watching with four other friends and my girlfriend. So
and I was always almost came too.
Yeah, you almost.
But I didn't really was motivated enough to go.
I would have loved to watch it with you, but it's fine. So my girlfriend sits next to me, and she's always giving me this face, like this very, very evil grin, because she knows I'm not having fun right now. And she didn't either, because it was so bland. It was so boring. I mean, I can say, without even spoiling the film, the main villain is such a shitbag that you know that he gets one-shotted when Superman gets resurrected. And of course, Superman gets resurrected. That's not even a spoiler.
They fucking teased it in the last movie.
Yeah. So, and this movie had no surprises. This movie had no really fun action. Most of the action was done via how do you call it? Slow motion effects, which I
hate. Which is prize away a problem I have with Zack Snyder in general.
Yeah.
This fucking slow motion bullshit.
And you grow tired of them very fast. Even if you like them, you grow tired of them in the middle of the movie. Like, you're just, stop, please. Don't do them again. Do something different. Be more creative with your action scenes, please. And I think the worst of the worst in this film is the forced humor that was really forced, like hammered into this film. There are so many bad spots they could have took to make bad jokes, and they took the worst spots they could think of. They weren't funny. We didn't have one asshole laughing in the film. Terrible. Like, just, I mean, this is worse than having a very, very, very shitty movie where you can rip everything apart because you can still make fun about it, like The Room with Tommy Wiseau, where you can just laugh about it. In this movie, you can't say anything because it's so boring, because there's nothing to say about it. So that's my worst movie this year that I've seen.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to add, which perfectly fits to that, is DCU and Marvel in general are just not really that great of movies anymore.
Yeah.
I know I haven't seen Thor 3 yet. And I probably it's an enjoyable movie, but in general, what Marvel and DC are doing right now is just killing movies in general. You know, when I think about the first Marvel movies, I think almost all of them were great. So, like the first Iron Man movie.
Okay,
and the sequels sucked. I still love the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah,
but the sequels suck. They aren't really great.
Yeah, especially in 2. 2 was really, really bad, yeah.
And, okay, Captain America was the only one that had a decent second movie. And an acceptable third movie.
Oof. I mean, the third movie, yes, I thought that was okay. The second and first movie,
With the second movie, you have to be, this doesn't make sense, but it's kind of an interesting action thriller. If you think about the logic of the Captain America movies, then you're going to hate them anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, not really the logic. My main gripe was that I didn't have any interest in the Winter Soldier, like in the character, so it didn't. I didn't get invested.
Yeah, but that's a main problem of the whole thing.
Yeah,
because the Winter Soldier was not very explored in the first movie, where he was just, Bucky Barnes, the sidekick of Captain America, and that was the main thing about his story. And of course, if the sequel builds on that and sucks,
Yeah. I mean, I can say I'm slightly disagreeing with you here, because I think a lot of Marvel movies this year were great. I just wished
Which ones?
I thought Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was okay for what it was. Not great, but it was pretty fun. I had fun in the movies when I saw that. Um, I thought that, and I know you're going to hate me for that. I'm very, very sorry, but I thought that Spider-Man: Homecoming wasn't that bad. I thought it was okay.
I think it was horrible.
Yeah, yeah, we know
and
about that.
And it's on my bad movie list.
Yeah,
no surprises there.
I totally, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. And Thor Ragnarok was the best goddamn Marvel movie in a long time, in a very long time. Like, Thor Ragnarok didn't just get me positively. It surprised me on how good it was.
Yeah, but the reason for that is because Thor 1 and 2 sucked.
I can tell you safely, no. This is not the reason, because yes.
I mean, you weren't expecting it to be so good.
No.
Here's
the thing.
Didn't have a base
I knew before that this movie is going to have nothing to do with Thor 1 and 2, and that the director is seeing that as something different. He's not seeing it as Thor 3. He's seeing it as Thor Ragnarok 1. If you were to make a sequel, he would call it Thor Ragnarok 2. So this is going to be something different. I knew that already, but I was still like, yeah, okay, maybe it's going to be okay like the rest of the movies. So yeah, I got in and I had way too much fun with it. Like, that just took me by surprise to have that much fun with that movie.
But here, you're proving my in general problem with the Marvel Universe. Because this movie was treated like it was something different, means it wasn't really too much into the universe, except the Hulk is there for some reason. I'm not really disagreeing with you on that it may be a fun movie, but it's the problem in general with Marvel, where they're not really doing anything with the fact that this is the same universe, and if they do, it sucks because every Avenger movies now sets up new movies. Mm-hmm. When they started, it was the opposite. Every movie was a setup for the character to introduce the Avengers.
I mean, yeah, sure. If you see it that way, I mean, yeah, you can totally see it that way. But another example would be the Doctor Strange movie. I don't know if it came out this year or last year. I'm not
last year.
Last year. But this was another one of these examples where I just barely read the comics, but I always liked the character, and in this movie he was portrayed so well that it got me and other people as well to invest more time with this character. And
yeah, well,
when a movie does that to introduce a character that great that you wanna see more of him in the comics or something, then it's doing something right.
Yeah, but here's the main thing: is just Benedict Cumberbatch was a perfect fit for the character.
Yeah.
He was basically the character, so that did help. I think it was an acceptable movie. It had fun parts, it had stupid parts, but it was still enjoyable enough to watch. Mm-hmm. But is that our kind of standard now to say, oh well, yeah, the movies I'm going to watch are acceptable enough, and not, man, this was a good movie. What a surprise!
My standard about these movies, and that's why I was going into Marvel movie after Marvel movie this year, was because for the most part I really had fun. Like, I'm not viewing them as acceptable or anything. I'm going inside and I just say, yeah, I'm going to have a great time for the next few hours, and I mostly did. Yeah. So it's not like I'm not expecting masterpieces or anything, but just to have a nice time, it's totally fine. And I mean, the best thing that you could do, and I think that's going to be for me next year, is that just don't go to the cinemas for the movie. Just wait a few months and you'll get them on Netflix. Because now, almost all the movies that I saw in the cinema are almost all on Netflix now, and I could have just watched them now a few months later instead of just going to the cinema. Because in the cinema I can see other different movies. Another one that I wanted to bring up about bad movies of this year. And of course, I just have to say that. Thank you for ruining all my expectations, all my hopes and dreams I always had for this maybe cool adaptation that could have been cool. and I'm of course talking about The Dark Tower from Stephen King. Um,
I didn't even watch it.
yeah. I mean, sure. You shouldn't watch it. I mean, it's the most. Okay. So where do I start? A few days ago, or let's say a week ago, I was at a electric store, I was just at a store, and I was looking over for DVDs and Blu-rays and things, and I bought a movie for my girlfriend, a movie which she really likes. It was The Grinch with Jim Carrey, a little fun Christmas movie. And besides that movie, I see the Dark Tower movie, and immediately when I saw it, it got me Vietnam flashbacks, where I was like,
triggered.
yeah, it triggered me instantly. And I think for the next second, I destroyed the whole electric market and I killed like 50,000 people. But maybe that was just a dream. I don't know.
It was a parallel universe.
Yeah,
when you did that.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I didn't read all of his novels, but his most popular ones, and a few other different as well. And this is my favorite of all the novels he's done. It's a seven volume long story, a dark fantasy story that I really like. Like, it's very close to my heart, and I always wanted to have a good movie about it. I told friends about about the novels. I told, like, other people have started reading the novels with me because of what I said about it. And then finally the day came and we got the Dark Tower movie adaptation. I was going into the movie and I honestly can't tell you one single scene in this movie that I liked. Not a single scene. For example, there's a scene, let's not talk about the whole movie, just for this one scene. There's a scene in this movie where the main antagonist opens up what do you call it in English? He opens up a briefcase. Let's just say it was a briefcase. He opened up a briefcase, and you see a lot of different colored balls. You see different colored balls inside there. He takes one out and does some magic with it. For the general viewer, that scene was pointless because it was just showing us a few colored balls that didn't get bring up anymore. For novel readers, this was a spit in the face, because for a lot of novels, I think it was volume 4, which is like a 500 page novel. Everything in the plot is about one of these crystal balls. These crystal balls in this universe are like super OP items that you shouldn't have. In this movie, this main antagonist just has all of them, just in a briefcase, just lying there, takes one out, and does some magic bullshit with it, and doesn't bring it up ever again in this movie. And this is the whole film in general. It's one lame-ass thing for the readers that doesn't bring any context to new watchers, and the whole movie doesn't even has the tone of the novels right. Stephen King himself said that he's fine with the movie, but he knows it has nothing to do with his novels. So please, how can he even be fine with that? How can he? That just...
You knew this was going to suck.
Yes.
But you still were going anyway.
Yes. I knew after the first trailer that this is not the kind of movie that I wanted. But I still wanted to see it. I just wanted to see what they did right and what they didn't, and they completely did wrong. The action scenes were boring. They were really like bad Marvel movies. They were more like Justice League. so more like DC movies, and the story. I can't. Okay, imagine this. Imagine we have an anime adaptation of Berserk, but not this one that we have right now, just a different one. And instead of having guts, we get the guts from the manga. We get an anime guts that's super nice and friendly, and apparently not such a badass. It just doesn't make sense. Like you don't even get the characters right. What are you doing this for?
Well, which is basically Death Note, the movie.
Yeah, basically, yes. But just in Death Note, for Death Note, we already had a solid live action adaptation. We already had solid anime adaptations. For Dark Tower, we don't have anything until this point. This is, and let's not forget, Stephen King. This is his most important work. His
Magnus Opus.
Yeah. And
Opus.
he didn't want to sell the license for over 20 years. He didn't want to sell the license for having a bad movie about it. He just didn't want to have a bad movie about it. Now, finally, over 30 years now, finally he sells off this license, and this happens. Thanks for nothing. I mean...
Yeah. He pulls an Iraqi and still it's fucked.
Yeah. Basically, yes, he did. I'm super disappointed. And this was the biggest disappointment. Yeah, the biggest disappointment this year for me. This movie. Okay, do you have anything else on your bad list? Because I still have one more thing.
Surprisingly, we kind of talked about everything on my bad list. So.
Okay, wow. I have one more thing, and it's a video game. We were just talking about how hard it is to play bad video games now, because you already know through the internet which ones suck and which don't. In this case, it's a little different because let me take you back to 2016. In 2016, my brother and we were having fun with an alpha. It was an alpha of a game, it was not the whole game, and it was Hello Neighbor. Hello Neighbor is just a little fun concept from a guy made in Russia. Little fun concept where you try to get in the house of your neighbor, and your neighbor is hiding some dark secrets. And it was a fun little idea, but the mechanics were busted, the riddles were bad, but it was an alpha, so it's fine. This year, in the summer of 2017, the guy who made the game told the internet that in summer it's going to be ready. In summer, the whole game is going to be finished, but instead it wasn't finished. We got another alpha. We played that alpha. Yeah, it wasn't that good. It was okay, but not that great. It still was busted, and we thought that maybe he should be a little bit more done with the game now. And finally, in this month, in December, the game got the full release. So the game came out, and we played it.
Let me guess, it still sucked.
It was still busted. It was just a little bit. It was just a tad longer, but it was still busted. It had some cutscenes. Wow, those sucked too, and it wasn't fun. It was just a longer alpha. It felt like a longer alpha. It still had no logic riddles. The riddles were stupid as hell. Just get this one key that you don't know anything about, that's hidden somewhere, but the game doesn't even tell you that, so it's just that kind of bad. And yeah, if you play everything correctly, and by correct I mean busted as fuck, you are done with this game in 3 hours, and it sucks. So that was a big disappointment, and I'm going to tell you now, what do you think how much did this game cost? My brother paid €30 for that shit. That's something.
True. But I have to say, it's also kind of your own fault,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I I mean, the concept was so much fun that we thought that, I mean, this was still an alpha, right? This would be way better in the beta or on the full release. We couldn't have thought that it's just never going to get any better from the point that it was in the alpha. We couldn't have grasped that. But yes, of course, now we are a little more smarter about it. We learned about how to get fucked in life. Yes, but it's our fault as well. Sure.
You know who's at fault here? Trump. He's just at fault for everything that happens in 2017. just blame it on Trump.
Just blame it on Trump. I mean, Trump. He had some really, really nice or really, really funny anime. What do you call it?
Artworks.
Anime artworks, and he got also he got to be part of some animes in this year, and that was yes. Fun as well.
right. There was some that actually added him, but there were also shows that added Barack Obama when he was president.
Right. There was Air Gear. The manga had Barack Obama. I don't remember which ones as well, but he was there a few times. Yeah.
So weird. Anyway, finally we're done with the bad.
I think we're longer than expected.
Yeah. Next thing are the bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we want to start with? I actually have 8 entries here.
Ooh. Okay, then I'd say you start.
Yeah. Well. Okay, one thing you have on your good list that I have on the bizarre list is Resident Evil 7.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it isn't a bad game, but I just couldn't care less enough. For me, it was just a combination of the most popular Resident Evil games. It was basically if you mixed Resident Evil 1 and 4.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, after I watched the playthrough of Resident Evil 7, I did buy Resident Evil 4 for PlayStation 4 because I really got into the mood to play it again. I have played Resident Evil 4 like 20 times, played through it, so it's still fun to play. But Resident Evil 7, while it's definitely a better game than 6, definitely, but a lot of things it does is it's kind of pandering, and I wish it could do certain stuff differently. All the shitty DLC, which are just half-assed. Then the general enemy design, which the more that are just terrible enemy designs. And I don't want to shit too much about it, because I think it's not a bad game. But I don't think it's as good as people praise it to be.
Yeah, I think the price is a little too high for this game. I mean, I have it on the good list. Because of the fact I had a ton of fun with it. I don't think the DLCs for it are half-assed. I think they are just little playthings. They are not really serious. That's why I didn't buy them. But I still think they are fun for what they are.
Which pissed me off. 2 of the DLCs that were released now kind of belong to the main story, and I just hate that in general. As we shitted about Final Fantasy 15 for doing this shit, I have to shit about it in Resident Evil 7.
Sure.
Red field that has to capture the sun, which was missing in the main game, and then the second DLC is what happened to the family daughter. Which isn't addressed in the main game as well.
The Redfield DLC was supposed to come out as a free DLC in summer,
which isn't.
Which isn't, and now it came out in December, but it's still free, and that's the most important part for me.
Yeah, but the other one isn't free. Which isn't the other one that great to begin with.
Yes, that is. Yeah. I can only say that I had fun with it. The last few hours of the game I didn't like as much, and that's why, I don't really have a good list in that manner of which are the good games of this year. I'm going to say that when we're on the good list, but I'm going to have a top 5 with games, and Resident Evil 7 is not on the top 5. It's an honorable mention.
Yeah. So what's on your bizarre list, or should I continue?
I'd say you continue for now because I don't have that much.
Yeah. Well, the next one is Fate Extella, the Umbral Star, was released for different consoles, mainly for the PlayStation 4. And I still haven't finished it. I still didn't get to play it because it's a fucking Muso game.
Yeah.
Now, the game has a whole visual novel style story, And I would be totally fine reading that story.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't care enough to play through the fucking Musu part of it.
Yes.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? It's
Of
like,
course I know what you mean. So many franchises that I like did get Muso games, and I didn't play them because they are Muso games. Just waltzing through tons of enemies is just not fun because they can't do anything about you. You're just pressing X, and when you are pressing X, you are the biggest and strongest that ever existed, and nobody can stand in your way. And I don't like these kind of games.
Yeah, well, there are mechanics, and I usually play on hard mode, but it's
Sure.
not really anything special. And just killing hundreds of thousands of nameless enemies is just, to me, it's totally boring
Yeah.
and just a drag to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I did order the collector's edition, which I really liked. It had a little art book with character designs. It had cards of every playable servant. And like, I didn't regret buying that. Not like for paying 90 euros for buying the first JoJo game because it looked good and was turned to shit. No, I don't regret buying it. It's like a nice piece of collector's stuff to have in my vitrine.
Yeah, I can totally agree. Yeah.
But there was already announced a sequel, and like for new characters that appear and for the story, I'm like, yeah, I'm excited, but I don't really want to play it, and that's the main problem here,
Yeah, this is a problem, of course.
And that's why it's not on my bad list, but it can't be on my good list either. So this is just a bizarre example of. I hope they will turn it into a beat 'em up, or so I don't really get that bored that fast, and you don't need 20 hours to beat a beat 'em up. Just to kill hundreds of thousands of nameless soldiers. So I really hope they fix some of the stuff in the sequel, or just not a Muso game. Just in general, don't do Muso games with popular franchises.
And I don't like how Muso games became like the dump of anime games. Where you take this license and you just make a little Muso game out of it. We had this with Berserk, we had this with One Piece, we had this with Attack on Titan, we have this with, I don't know,
Zelda.
Yeah, I mean it's not an anime, but Zelda, yes, like all the franchises, all the licenses. You get the idea. Fire Emblem, anything.
Just don't.
Yeah. When you're done with this, I would move on to my bizarre one of my few bizarre titles that I have this year.
Yeah, sure.
And it's a video game. It's Neo from Ninja Theory.
Okay.
I didn't dislike this game. I thought it was fine. It had very nice controls. I really, really loved the option, and every game should have that, where you just can take some of the graphics away to have 60 frames per second. This is amazing to have on the console. I really like that. And what kind of thing was there with this game? Like, I played through it, and it's a really long game. Like you take like 40 hours to go to the main campaign, which is very long. And I got to the part where I was like, man, I don't want to get to the next mission anymore. I'm done with this game now. I just want it was okay, it was good, but I want to be done with it now. What's the big deal? Why is it going on and on and on? And I can tell you, I didn't know at first what put me off about it, but now I can say that it was the level design. Ninja Theory mostly is known for really cool level design, but in this game, most of the levels look the same. Most of the stages that you go through aren't interesting. You always see the same kind of enemies. You always do the same thing over and over and over. And it's not an open world title, it doesn't have a feeling of an open world like Dark Souls game. It has stages, and once you end a stage, you get to the next one. You are on a world map where you select where you go next, and it's kind of off-putting because once you are done with the stage, once you've beaten the boss and you are done with the stage, you're going back to the world map. You always get this breather that you didn't always have in a Dark Souls game. And this breather is kind of putting me off in a way that I don't want to continue to play. Where I'm like, okay, this was a piece of work now. This piece of work now is done. And let's just finish it up for today. And I had this with this game way too often. Don't get me wrong, it's a fun game, but it can be way too tiring at times. Because it's more of the same in a lot of ways. It gets very cool and creative in the end of the game, but that's like the last few stages. And in the beginning also, in the beginning where everything is new and you get to learn new mechanics and things, everything is really, really cool in the beginning and the end, but in the middle it gets really dragged out. And that's why it's on my bizarre list, is because the bizarre thing about this game is that it's fun, but sometimes it's not.
Okay, interesting opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess next up is me again. So, yeah, I did put Made in Abyss on my bizarre list and not on my good list. For many people really liked this adaptation. And I think it was a good adaptation. It just didn't hit it off for me so much that I did put it on the good list. You know, Made in Abyss has like this main characters that have this chibi design, like small children design, that go on an adventure. And later on it turns out that they're going to meet quite horrible situations. That they have to overcome, so it gets pretty dark later on, and even more in the manga, which I've read after the anime. And yeah, but that's not enough to really surprise me anymore. Like, I need a little bit more. I don't necessarily need something dark. And many things were praised. Like, there's this one really great musical track when they discover something that always plays, and it's really good track, but I don't know, not to me, not the entirety was that good. There were obviously single things that were good about Made in the Abyss, but not everything. So that's why it's not on my good list, because I didn't care enough about it. I think it's a good watch. I would also recommend it if you actually need a good fantasy show. Then I would recommend watching Made in the Abyss over the 20 million isekai fucking show.
Also, the art style is I would really recommend people that like the Mega Man stuff art style to check it out, because it has a very Capcom-y vibe going.
Yeah. And that's, but that might be also something off-putting if you don't like the art style.
Right,
because it has a unique art style.
Yeah. I'd always prefer a unique art style over something that just looks plain as boring. We had that in the last podcast where we said that.
And also, one thing I didn't like about Made in Abyss, it does so much world building, showing you this abyss, which has several layers. But then they're rushing through several layers so fast.
The pacing gets really bad, yeah.
And I'm just like, so, what's the fun in exploring these layers? At least for 1 or 2 episodes more, just to get a feeling for this.
Yeah.
I know you want to get to the meat, to get them down the abyss as fast as possible.
Yeah, but in these kinds of adventures, it's always about the adventure itself than just to get to the end.
Yeah, I do want to reach the end at some point. But
Yeah,
I do
of course.
want to see the concept you're building.
Yeah, sure.
Not
sure.
just skip through it. Yeah. So, should I continue on?
You should continue on, yeah.
How much have you left on your list?
I think I have, let me see, because one thing I'm still thinking about dropping it off this list. And then I have one more thing. So I have one more thing 100%ly, and the other thing I'm not sure.
Okay, so I continue. One thing I put on the Bizarre, which I haven't played, but the whole discussion about it was so funny I had to put it on, is Xenoblade 2.
Oh, man.
I
didn't play it either.
I'm honestly surprised with how many feminazis were coming out for Xenoblade 2. But let me tell you, it was hilarious how everybody started complaining about it because the breasts are so big and ridiculous. Yes, they kind of are.
Yeah.
But the worst problem of Xenoblade 2 is probably the British dub, which totally don't suit the characters. This is actually not per se a bad dub, but absolutely misfitting.
Yeah.
It's. I have just to say, I had my entertainment with Xenoblade 2 because of all the idiots that had to add something to the discussion, which was just so funny. And then it was discovered, the maker did porn before. Why am I not surprised?
I mean...
Bitch! Almost every Japanese artist did porn first.
Yeah. Even the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Author did that. I mean, everyone.
The Helsing mangaka did it.
Yeah.
And the Food Wars mangaka did porn, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So it's just, most people start with porn, and it's
because it's selling. Because they gotta start somewhere.
And also it's good character study because, porn, you get most different body types and how they move and how clothing looks on them. So it's good for character studies nonetheless. And so you see the improvement with a lot of artists if you look at their erotic or pornographic content that they made or still making. For example, Masamune Shiro, who is the creator of Ghost in the Shell, still does mostly erotic stuff nowadays. He doesn't care if it's... and he still did create a franchise that is very beloved. So
I mean, sure.
Yeah, so that was surprisingly fun times with Xenoblade 2. Even so, I have no intention of playing it, but
Okay, but what do you mean is I mean, what is there anything other that you think is bizarre about it, or was it this whole conversation?
It was more the conversation. I don't think there's so much new or different from the game itself. I mean, the character designs, some are good, some are ridiculous, and some are just plain.
I just like the idea of that some are good and some are ridiculous. It screams that it's so inconsistent.
But it kind of is. But I didn't think it was so bad, and I know many people enjoyed the game anyway. But just because games like these existed before that, but suddenly the casuals want the game to be to their taste because now with this year with Persona and stuff, the casuals are getting into these games. Which I don't think is that bad. It's just when they're demanding certain changes to franchises that aren't really reasonable or just to suit your own needs. Then play something different if that bothers you. Don't ruin the fun for people that like it, that liked it way before you. you know. Persona was supported by a lot of fans beforehand.
Yeah,
and that's why it finally got an international release. So
right.
be careful about what you say and what you complain about.
Yeah,
That's
or
what
what
I'm
you
saying.
or what you try to be an elitist about, because you can't be an elitist about something that you know for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So
I have one more, like, I have one more thing on my list.
go on.
And this one is, I mean, I can say so. How am I even starting? um. Okay. So there's this anime, and we talked about it a little bit, like a minute. I think the last episode we talked about it, and it's this very annoying thing for me. It's a very annoying thing because this is one thing that gets overhyped very fast, where I thought that it was okay, and it's the Ancient Magus Bride. I have watched more of it now, and I gotta say it's totally fine. I think it's okay. How many times did I say totally fine in this episode alone? But I think it's okay. It's okay. But people are
because this is on my good list.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Sure. It is good. But the way it gets treated from people or from fans, I think it's a little too much, to be honest. Like, I see it's a good anime, but there are other good animes as well that don't get talked about like that. What is it about this show that makes it so much more special for people?
I think it's the relatability to Chisa, because she really has a troubled past, and she's like totally depressed at the start and doesn't know what to do with life. So I think that resonates with a lot of people, me included.
I can say that yes, it is very relatable, and it's also a very nice story. You know, it's a very very charming story that we get here, and I like it. Don't get me wrong. I think the story is very very nice, but people being crazy about, I want to see the next episode now. This is the best biggest thing ever. I don't see that, you know. I don't get that. There are other shows that are, I think, just as good as the Ancient Magus Bride, and that don't get that much attention. So what is it with this show that it's so much more special, you know?
I kind of get it, because it's not the same shit as everything else. It's a very solid fantasy story and fantasy exploration story, which gradually explains its magic, and it's a really good character study between a depressed human and, you know, a kind of nihilistic 1,000-year-old magical being. And I haven't seen it completely yet. I'm still waiting for completely watching it. I mean, I have seen the OVA. I've read some of the manga beforehand, so I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm also like, I want to watch it when it's completed.
Okay,
and,
yeah, sure.
In one go, you know, when I lying cozy in my bed and just
just marathoning through.
I want, because it's kind of a special anime, I want to watch it at a special time and place, you know, really getting into it and not just sitting before my PC and then, you know, like every show, just watching through it. So, but yeah, it's on my good list. I think it's a really solid adaptation, really beautiful looking, and really relatable. I know what you mean. It got really hyped when the anime actually aired, and it had a lot of support from fans before then already. That now it's the same thing what you mentioned, you know, the hype that's coming and being elitist about something, you know, for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think the hype is justified compared to other shows that get hyped. I'm fine with this one.
I mean, it's not that I don't that I'm not happy for this show to get this much attention. It's just that it surprised me a lot. Okay, I mean, sure. I think that's it for my bizarre list, because there wasn't anything that yeah.
Good. There's 3 things left for me.
Okay, sure.
So the quickest one out of them is yes, I really like the Symphogear animes as entertainment. It's not something I would say recommend to other people to watch. Mm-hmm. It is a bit trashy, but nonetheless I really enjoyed it, and one of my favorite female characters is from it. Mm-hmm. And it got a gacha game, and
so you got a waifu there.
Yeah, well, for me it's a waifu collector's game, basically.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The problem is it has too much content at once, and the gameplay is not too engaging. What I like is that almost all of the characters and cards you get, not almost all of them, are in the same art style, so there's no inconsistencies. With some gacha games with the higher artists that are visibly worse than others. So this game for me is just like, when I want to roll for my waifus, but the game itself is just not so engaging. So
I want to call this episode "I want to roll for my waifus."
Well, on my good list there's FGO, but in FGO I don't only roll for waifus, but also for husbandos. So we'll get to that later. Yeah. I'm just a bit disappointed because the game launched this year, and when the gameplay is not too engaging with a gacha game, then it's really hard to keep going for it. And I want to support it because more if the game does well, that means more Symphogears coming. And that, for me, that's a good thing. But, I don't really want to play it that much. That's the main problem here.
Okay, I mean, sure.
Yeah, then one game, which is on my bizarre list, The Evil Within 2. Now I have to say, it's not a terrible game, but it's not a great game either.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Isn't this exactly what everyone said about the first game as well? Yeah, but I didn't play it. I have no idea.
I think in retrospective, I think the first game was actually kind of good. It just didn't tell you a lot of things or game mechanics that would have made my experience much better. When I watched a review of someone who explained all the mechanics, and I was like, oh, if the game explains that, I would have much easier time playing through it. So that was a big problem of the game, I think. So in retrospect, if I play it again now, I'm much less critical about it. And the main problem with the second game is that it just didn't decide what it wanted to be. It has kind of open world elements, but not entirely. And the whole main storyline is about the main character from the first game trying to get, spoiler, his daughter back, which is the whole story of the second game.
Wait, this is a spoiler? I already knew that. I didn't play it.
Yeah, but it is kind of a spoiler if you want to play the first game, but with all the marketing.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to.
It's the main focus of the story, so of course you got to get spoiled. Yeah. I mean, there's a second game, and the main character's the same again.
Yeah.
Oh, surprise. And what I really hated were facts like you have to unlock skills, but certain skills to unlock is stupid. Like, being at ducking behind something, and then to sneak kill someone from that position where you duck, and you need to buy that skill.
Yeah.
And that's stupid to me. Like, if you are behind a wall and the enemy comes, and then you sneak kill him, but you have to buy that skill, or you can't sneak kill him when you are hiding behind the wall, which, sorry, is stupid. That's an element in this kind of game which I want to use right from the beginning.
Not to have to fucking buy it,
Yeah, and because this is in the mind of someone, I remember this game is called Psycho Break in Japan. I get if you buy upgrades, to have longer stamina and whatnot. That makes sense if you're in the mind of someone to
if
be
you're
an upgrade.
psycho breaking.
Yeah, but for those sneak kills and stuff, that should not be unlockable skills. You should give me that option right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the game isn't really. I think it isn't really a horror game and should never have been the second game, because I like the kind of melodramatic feeling the game has, where you kind of try to rescue your daughter, which was used as core for this world that is now collapsing. And I actually wished for more interactions with other characters. You have like 3 characters in the entire game you're interacting with, and the rest are monsters that are roaming this world. And I was like, the marketing was better than the game itself. Yeah, in the marketing it sounded like, you could explore this town and then learn what happened with a priest at the church. But these were always like just little interludes that didn't really do anything for the world building, and that's kind of where the game was lacking. I would have liked if there were more special monsters in this world that maybe haunt certain citizens, or certain citizens turned into. Like, I don't know, maybe the mayor did some blackmail stuff and he turns into creature because of that, or something like that. But the game really had one random encounter that you would unlock, which is just based on the memory of the main character. She was called Laura, I think, or Laura Remains. And one thing I also disliked is later in the game, the character is finally, let's fuck this shit, and he's taking control of this mind world because he knows this, depending how strong your mind is, you can warp this world. And I was like, shouldn't he be right from the start of the game be like this? I mean, he lived through one kind of this experience already. He should be much harder motherfucker. For example, this is comparable to Leon from Resident Evil 2 and 4, where you have, look at Resident Evil 4 with Leon doing roundhouse kicks, and the Leon in Resident Evil 4 is just much more badass, and you think, okay, he learned something, after his last zombie apocalypse.
Yeah,
and this came way too late in Evil Within 2. It just feels like this game wasn't completely finished, or they decided halfway through, okay, let's make this linear, similar to Final Fantasy 15, but it's not that bad. I still enjoyed getting my ending and actually rescuing his daughter, but that's the thing. The problem is the first game was a horror game, and it just with the name Psycho Break, it doesn't really need to be horror.
Yeah,
it can be more. It should have been more a thriller, maybe. And I think now they don't want to turn that around, and Shinji Mikami is kind of known as a horror guy. But I think if he was going in a different direction, this game would have worked much, much better, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So
sure.
I'm a little bit disappointed, but I still bite it and played through it, so I'm not that salty about it. But yeah, that's my stand on it.
Okay.
So,
do you have one more thing of your bizarre list?
Yes. And that's I choose that as the last thing to tie in to the good list, because I have the Dies Irae anime on my bizarre list. Now, the anime in general by the normal people is quite disliked. It's my anime list. It's I think 70,000 people are having it on their list, and its score is 5.5, around that. And I think that score is a little bit unjustified, but I do get why people don't like it. So I think one main problem of the anime is that it didn't decide if it wanted to be only for the visual novel readers who financed this anime, or if it wanted to be acceptable for new viewers. There's several problems. For example, the anime is an adaptation of the third root, and you have to know about the visual novel that every root is based on the one that came before. So you have basically route 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have to read it in that order because some information is in the first route or in the second route that you need on the other routes. So sometimes they try to cram in some of the information, but the show can't cram in all of the explanations, and it's suffering because of that. And then there's the animation quality, which is really inconsistent. It gets better with every episode. And for example, episode 11, I thought was a great episode. It was a really good adaptation of that fight and the story of the visual novel which it took place. And this might be the case that because there are still 6 episodes left, which will be which will release online only when they are done. And I think what they did is the animation budget, they were keeping it for the end of it. Because the end has some of the most interesting fights. So what I think they're doing, where the whole episodes at the start, they were just like, fuck it. And with the cool shit that comes at the end, they're going to put in all the money. Considering that episode 11 was looking much, much better, I think this is really the route they're going. And I can't really put it on the bad list because it still got me interested in the visual novel and in the whole universe, and now I'm a fan of Dies Irae. So it got me hooked. I liked this edgy stuff. And without it, I probably wouldn't have read the visual novel, which is one of the best I've read in a long time. And so I have to put it in bizarre list. It's not a good show. I would rank it 6 out of 10, which is a fine scoring. I was well entertained, but I know it's by far not perfect. But I still think people criticize it way too much, or just too bored to Google some of the German terms for 3 seconds. And in general, I would criticize people know not enough about, for example, World War II. Because if your enemies are Nazis and you don't know certain shit, I would say people are kind of ignorant. Especially, I know this is kind of cliche, but I would say especially American people are not well enough informed about stuff like the Second World War, but are always bitching about Pearl Harbor. And so that's kind of what's pissing me off about certain communities. Like, I know the show isn't perfect, but a lot of your criticism is just your own ignorance.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, with that, we're going finally into the good stuff.
Yes, we got the good stuff, and right beforehand, I gotta say that for me it was top lists that I made for the good ones, and for me it's a top 3 for movies, a top 3 for animes, and a top 5 for video games. I would just start off with movies, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, well, one movie I have on my list will surely be on yours. I think I've only added one real movie on my list. Yes, it's only one movie, which I'm pretty sure is on your top 3 list.
Let me hear what it is.
No, just start.
I'm not sure if it's on there.
Well, for
maybe I forgot something because I put up this list together yesterday. That's why I only have like real movies, if you want to call them that. on the list.
Okay. I'm just saying the one movie I have on my good list is the remake of It.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Did you count that as, because I thought you were talking about anime movies or something when you said not real.
No. I meant that I haven't seen a lot of anime movies this year.
Yeah.
But you remind me, I forgot one good anime movie that I'm going to add now.
Okay, sure. I don't
With,
have any anime movies, so.
yeah, A Silent
Um.
Voice, which I've seen
Oh,
twice.
Silent Voice. Yeah. That was not
That was a
bad.
pretty good anime movie.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna start with what I have here. So my now it's a top four because I forgot it. How can I forgot it? It is the best movie I saw this year, so this is going to be number one. Yeah, I spoiled it. But on my top four and on the fourth place we have Thor Ragnarok. We already talked about this one. It was really fun. It was something that really surprised me. I knew a little about the original Thor Ragnarok comic, and I liked that one as well. And this one, man, it had some really fun stuff in it, and that was. I kind of felt like, and in these Marvel movies, I want to feel when I go inside, I want to feel like a 14-year-old again. I want to feel young again, and get this feeling of, yes, this fight is amazing. Okay, what's going to happen next? Like I really want to have this, if it makes sense, shonen feeling from a Marvel, and this one delivered. This one delivered that. The next one is another Marvel movie, but it's really Fox, and it's Old Man Logan. Um,
Okay. Yeah,
this one
I've seen that one too.
This one took me by surprise as well because I was going with a mindset in this movie that it's going to be nothing like the comic, and I really like the comic. Because of all the licensing issues. Like
Yeah.
there's no way that in this movie we will see any incest Hulk babies or something. Like this is not gonna happen. But what they did with it, they just took the name and did something completely original, and I really like that. Um, Especially the tone of the movie. Um, it's very brutal, it's very dark, and it has this kind of, I want to call it slice of life feel to it, where it's just this road trip with these three guys, and by the end of the movie, you just love these three dudes together, and the tragic fate that they all have together. Another thing is that why this surprised me is that I didn't like the first two Wolverine movies. I think they both
No,
suck.
no. I think nobody liked really
Yeah,
them. They weren't
yeah,
just good movies. So
yeah. So I didn't think that the third one would be any good because the first two were like meh, like they just sucked, and this one was just mind blowing on how cool it was and how much emotions it gave me. Um, I was really happy with that movie after I came out. It kept me thinking, and that's really what I liked about it. Um, Next on my top four.
yeah, well, to say I didn't put it on my good list. I think it was an okay movie, but there were still things that I find kind of found wacky. Especially the world building for me was quite weak.
Okay.
So I didn't. I enjoyed that movie. I especially enjoyed the Berserker Wolverine stuff,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
have been missing in these fucking movies since forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this movie delivered on them finally.
Hmm.
But the whole world building, how did they kill the mutants and stuff, and
Yeah. I
this was
mean.
kind of weak.
I mean, one of my favorite X-Men movies in general is what is it called in English? I only know the German name. So
Which one?
it was the second of the new trilogy.
Do you mean
Or
Days of Future Past?
Days of Future Past. Thank you. I like this one, but it does a bad job on this as well. Where it just starts off with every mutant destroyed, and you get like this destroyed future, and you're like, oh, okay, well, time to go to the past and see what happened. Um, but I this is one my favorite X-Men movie, and this one is my favorite. Uh, I mean, I'd say this one is my second favorite X-Men movie. Yeah, if you want to count that. On my next on my top four, I have Star Wars Episode 8. Um, I gotta say that we talked about this before in private, Wraith. Just a little bit, but I'm essentially just repeating what I've said there. Is that I can't believe on how on how stupid people are sometimes when it comes to the original trilogy. Like, people are so over nostalgic on the original trilogy that they even viewed the story as something that was beautiful and great and fantastic. And in this movie, they say the story sucks. That's why the film sucks. And I'm like, nah. What I always liked about Star Wars is not about the story. The story was always dumb for me. Even when I was little, I thought the story was dumb. What I really liked was to go to the cinema and see how these big fights are going to happen on big screen. How they're going to fight on a planet with all this laser shooting around and things. Just having these
Star
war
Wars.
scenes. Yeah, these war scenes. This is my biggest thing. And yes, you just said it. These movies are called Star Wars because this is the biggest thing in these movies. This is the best thing in these movies. And the episode 8 delivered for me completely. It did. It had so many great fight scenes. It had so many great uh it had such a great script on how things were unfolding. And yes, it has some weak spots, but most of the time, I really had fun with it. More fun than I did with episode 7. So it definitely wasn't bad for me. I think people that tried to see something different when they were going in this movie and were disappointed when they came out, they really didn't want to see Star Wars. They just wanted to have something else delivered to them, like a very, very good thought out story, which you can't even do anymore in Star Wars. Like, after 8 episodes, the story is doomed. um,
Yeah, well, to be honest, I can't really say anything about it. I thought we've seen as a family episode 7. I thought episode 7 was terrible. I didn't enjoy it. I think it was not a good movie. And so I haven't seen Rogue One, except maybe the Darth Vader scene on YouTube. And
I gotta say, Rogue One was very good as well. Like the last 40 minutes of the film.
yeah,
Even
but
there were people like just cutting out these 40 minutes of the film and just calling it a different movie, a different Star Wars movie, and it worked because these last 40 minutes are the best fighting in a Star Wars film ever.
yeah, I know the blind guy using the Force stuff and shit. Yeah, but in general, after episode 7 was so terrible to me that I really was not into any more Star Wars movies, and that has yet to return.
Hmm. Okay, fair enough. Um, and yeah, of course, because you just told me, my favorite movie of the year. Um, and I even forgot about it. I think the reason why I forgot about it was because first things first, I just put up this list yesterday, and I was thinking very hard about what I saw this year, and all I could think about were these goddamn Marvel movies because I saw way too many of them. That's why it maybe just was in the it was hiding inside my brain somewhere. But now that you brought it up, yes, it was. I had such a great time with this film. I wished this adaptation would be the Dark Tower adaptation. Then this year would have been amazing. But I mean, sure, I take a very good adaptation as well. I'm very looking forward to the second film. I really liked the children actors. They were doing a great job.
They were surprisingly good, yes.
I really like the it depicted in this movie. Although he is a monster, like from the start, there's no part about him that's like Tim Curry is kind of like he can still play some of the fun stuff, but this guy is just not fun. Like everywhere when he shows up, he's just this fucking monster. You want to get him killed. But for that part, he's just doing amazing. So I can't really blame him. Just overall, great movie.
Yeah, I think considering the amount the book has on content, I think this movie did really well as an adaptation. Surprisingly so. And it is different enough from the first movie series. I always don't like it when people call it original because the book is original.
Yeah,
this is just another adaptation.
Yeah, and I also read the book. And I really like the book. It's one of my favorite King novels, right after The Dark Tower. But I gotta say, I really like some changes they made in the movie instead of the book. And it's really nice to see that we don't get a child sex scene, gangbang scene. That's one of the most awkward things that ever happened in a Stephen King.
But that was never going to happen.
Yeah. Good thing that's not going to happen.
So here's the thing: I've seen Stranger Things after it, and I wasn't impressed by Stranger Things. I'm surprised that it was so hyped. It had some good stuff, but it was
the hype was too strong. Yeah,
it was also too dragged out. Now many people say the It movie was too much in one movie, but I think it worked. It always kept me entertained. It didn't have phases where it broke down. And this, with all the cliffhangers and Stranger Things, were always the case. So, can I learn something new now, please? And with the 2 hours movie of it, I never felt this kind of loss or where I was bored. I was never bored. I was entertained the whole time. I think the child actors in the movie were really, really great. The only thing I'm maybe a bit annoyed is they changed the time from the 50s to the 80s. But we're too hard about it.
I gotta say, I really like that change. This is one of the changes I really liked.
Yeah, no, I don't mean the change itself. I mean how on the nose they were with the 80s being there, like the New Kids on the Block reference. Like,
I mean,
calm down a little.
These were a little bit too much. I think what you are referring now is if you've seen it, the Nostalgia Critic review, where he's getting way over it.
Yeah, I have seen that, but it is also kind of my opinion. And
I gotta say, first watching it, I didn't think it was that much. I thought it was fun, but I thought it was okay. But after that, I heard in the internet this was a big deal, where people were saying, that's a bit too much. Okay, I guess.
Well, in some scenes, it just was really. Oh, look, we're in the 80s, and so I get it. Have you seen how these people dress? I know we're in the 80s.
Yeah. Another thing that I heard is that the bicycles that they were driving.
Okay, I didn't give a fuck about that. I know the critic, but that is really nitpicking.
No. I mean, it's just a small thing, but I think it was very interesting. It wasn't really hate or anything. It was more like most people couldn't even get these kind of bicycles anymore in the 80s and the 70s. These were rare. So that's a very interesting detail. But I still like that they use these kind of bicycles just to show like old style bicycles,
Yeah, so another thing I maybe would criticize about it is that one character that doesn't play a big role in the second movie really didn't have much screen time in this movie.
Yeah.
And you already know, okay, he's going to die, so we're not going to bother much with about him in this movie.
But I got to be real. This is a thing that in the book, he doesn't get that much as well. He gets more, but not that much. And yeah, this is a thing that is in the book as well. And it's also hard in any kind of story, if it's the novel or the movies. It's very hard to get around 7 main characters. Like, just Stephen King thought of too many characters in this particular story, I think. So someone had to come short.
Yeah, but it's always like, this throwaway character, which hurts a bit the group dynamic.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, it was a good adaptation. I was entertained.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
So, yeah. Well, then let's continue. So,
So
Silent.
sorry. I'd continue with animes now. I have a top 3 on animes.
Yeah, but wait. Why are you moving to animes if there's still a movie?
Oh,
that
you still have
reminded me
movie?
of?
Oh, sorry. Please go on.
We talked about A Silent Voice, so maybe a few sentences to that.
Yeah. Sure.
I think it was a really good adaptation. It's really interesting because the main character is also suffering from depression, which was an effect from his own bullying he did to a deaf girl that couldn't really speak well because she couldn't hear well, and how to keep it short. I really liked the animation. It's a visual representation when the character tried to not see the faces of other people, to try to avoid interacting with them. And it's been quite a while since I saw it.
Yeah, me too. That's why I can't say that much, to be honest, but I liked it.
I agree kind of that maybe the part with the whole group was a bit had a little bit too little screen time, that we really didn't get into the side characters too much to care about them. But the main relationship between the main character and the main girl was handled quite well. I think it's also good to see something different, that you actually have a deaf girl as a protagonist in the movie, and how she suffered because of it, and how he tried to live through his depression. He had a pretty cool mom, like a mom that really cared about him. And I was kind of impressed about him, how at the start of the movie he really did like pay back his mother for the damage he caused when he destroyed the hearing aids of the deaf girl, Shoko. And her mother had to pay with all the money she saved to pay for them, and he realized that this was his fault. Yeah, well, the movie starts with him almost killing himself.
Yeah.
So the movie itself is surprisingly uplifting, even though it deals with quite depressing topics. Depressing topics like depression. Well, I'm quite the poet, aren't I?
Yeah, sure. Go on.
But yeah, I think it really did well to really get into the mind of the main character, why he feels depressed, and what kind of trouble his love interest Shoko had to deal with because she was deaf and in Japan, and kids are kind of cruel, and how the dynamic
Kids are always cruel, yeah.
Yeah, how this dynamic evolved between them was, I think, really well adapted into the movie. Yes. Yeah, I think it was a good movie. You can watch it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any more movies, or do we move on?
No. So you can move on with your anime picks.
Yes, my anime picks is a top three. I gotta have an honorable mention because I haven't watched Garo Vanishing Line yet. I still want to
Hmm.
watch that, so I
Me
don't
too.
have it on my list.
I have yet to
Just
see
looks
it.
amazing, so I have just to see it. Um, but yeah, we gotta see it. And so my top three, it starts with Attack on Titan season two. I thought it was nice. It had some. It very kept up the pacing way better than the first season, and I had way more fun with the season than I had with the first. And yeah, I like it that it doesn't follow the manga very strictly because the manga's bad parts are really big, and yeah.
It also added something from later novels, from later chapters into this.
Hmm. Yeah, right. Which is really cool. Um, but I can't say that much about it. Like, I like how the characters are getting smarter and smarter. Especially Armin, where he has these moments where he's like, he's always one step ahead of the watcher or reader. And one case in this season, he gets to a point where he's a little left behind, and you think like, okay, what's going on now? Why is he not that smart about it? But then he comes back, and you get the reason why he was left behind, and then he's two steps ahead of you,
Yeah,
and this I really like this dynamic.
yeah. I think it's also much better if you compare it to the first season where he was supposed to be the intelligent guy, but most of the time he was more annoying and not really
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah,
So in this season he is much more likable in that aspect.
right. Um, my top two pick is My Hero Academia season two. I for gotta be honest here, I don't have anything to say to that. If you watched season one, it's great. It's just as great as season one. It gets better, of course, and I'm really looking forward to season three in the next year.
So I have my top list for anime. I didn't add the second season, but I did add the Deku versus Todoroki fight and the Stain
Mm-hmm.
arc as the
Oh yeah,
major good
yeah.
points about the season.
Man, I love Stain. I
I
love how he's
I love him as a villain as well, and he's really kind of relatable in his desire, which
okay, sure. I mean, just the way that he's in the manga, that he's drawn to be from another comic or from another universe. I just love that. That he's this character alone is the 90s in a nutshell comics guy. You could just straight up get him out of a Spawn comic or something, and I really like that. This was amazing.
but to me, almost his ideals were what made him really an interesting character for me. Because
Hmm.
you didn't necessarily agree with what he was saying, but you were like, I get his point, I get what
Yeah.
he's about,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's kind of the best thing you can do for a villain if
Hmm.
he's relatable. I get why he's doing this stuff, and I mean all three episodes with the fight against him were really well done,
Hmm.
created a really nice dynamic between the three characters, between
Yeah.
Ida, Deku, and Todoroki, and it
Right.
paid off the development of their characters from beforehand.
Hmm.
So it had a meaning. It wasn't just an arc that was somewhere, but there was a point to it.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Deku versus Todoroki fight was just for two things really, really great. For one thing, the animation was absolutely stunning. It was a really
Mhm.
entertaining fight.
Mhm.
And I liked the fact about the subplot of what does it mean to be a hero,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
which the main maybe one thing that this season didn't do for me is my favorite character is Bakugo. I
Yeah.
I honestly think he's the best written character of the series,
Hmm.
and gets a lot of shit for stuff I think are kind of reasonable. he didn't really have a lot to do in this season.
Right, yeah.
But I'm also looking forward to the third season where he has a bigger focus. And yeah, I mean, Boku no Hero, many say it's just the best of the typical shonen tropes, but I think that's selling it short. I think it has unique and interesting world building, and later on it delivers on that. And
I can only say that when I started reading the manga, I really liked the dynamic between the pages. It has this dynamic where you can't stop flipping the page. You just want to read more and more and more. It just does that. How do you call it? It just has that feeling that it's just drawn and written that way, that your eye doesn't get any bored out, or your eyes don't see the same. You always see something different. This is why I really like the author. He's doing a very good job drawing this. I think the anime is doing a great job as well, but of course the manga is always superior, and in this case it's more than true.
In just some cases, I would say the manga is superior. I think a lot of things like the Deku versus Todoroki fight is better than in the manga. But I agree.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah.
But with, for example, in the last few episodes, you have that one face reveal of Shigaraki, which is so good looking in the manga, but the anime is really falling short on it.
Yeah. I think if you compare like the first chapter to the first manga anime episode, you can see the extreme differences where the author is really working with shadows and many different styles in one giant chapter, which I really liked, which the anime production had a hard time picking up, but also did a good job with.
Yeah, I think the anime really captures the look of the manga.
Yeah, it does a good job. Yeah,
it doesn't do everything well, but I think it's overall so good that I'm really not complaining that much about it.
No.
For example,
it's not really a complaint.
With other shows, it really annoyed me, like History's Strongest Disciple Kenichi, with the manga is so good looking, but the anime just felt short on it. Like the fight scenes just don't nearly look as stunning as some of the artworks in Kenichi, which is really sad. That would be an anime I would be fine with a reboot too.
Me too.
Just to see it animated.
We'll also get in a few seconds. We'll get to another anime that would need a reanimation or some kind. What can I move on to my number one pick?
I think we talked about it enough.
My number one pick is Last Hero Inuyashiki. And it's not only because it's a very nice adaptation, even despite the fact that it's using some ugly CG in some parts. It's still doing a good job on the 2D parts. It's still doing a good job on the story, on converting everything. It has a great soundtrack. It has a great opening. I just love almost everything about it. But the thing I love the most about Inuyashiki is that finally we get in Hiruya Oku anime that is decent, because this guy is doing great manga after great manga, and he's doing that since 2004. And Guns got an anime adaptation, and that sucked. That was not a good adaptation.
I kind of disagree. I think the first 12 episodes, while being slow, were still a good adaptation.
But they're not.
I think for the time when it was created, it was okay. The main problem I have with the first Guns anime is that it's slow as fuck.
It's slow as fuck, and the animation is not there.
I think it's okay. I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, the style was okay, but it's also been a long time since I've seen it.
Because if you would rewatch it, you would see that there are scenes, that long dragged out scenes where the characters are only moving their mouths, and that's it. But nothing is happening.
That's what I mean with slow pacing. Like...
No. This is not only slow pacing. This is just they were so lazy on animation. You can totally see that. and it's not a good adaptation of the franchise, and I dare to say that Last Hero Inuyashiki is a better adaptation of Guns than the Guns anime itself, because there's a character in Last Hero Inuyashiki that's a huge Guns fan, and he has all these Guns posters,
I know,
and it's depicting.
I've seen it in episode 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's depicting characters that show up in the manga way later, way after the anime, and those look better.
I still
the
have to
fucking anime.
say, I still have to see the Guns movie.
The Guns O movie?
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think the CG was perfect. I think the fights were cool, but it was skipping 90% of the arc that it's depicting.
Yeah, but because that was like one of the biggest manga arcs.
It was
the Osaka arc.
I read it for about 1.5 years. That's when it came out, because we only got a chapter like every month or so, and he really took his time on being done with this. Yeah,
and I think I'm one of the few person who likes the vampire arc, which comes before it, but like everyone is skipping out on.
I didn't think the vampires sucked in Guns. I only thought that their abruptly showing up was kind of well, it was kind of strange. Just one chapter they weren't there, and the next chapter now we have vampires. Okay, sure.
And after that they were gone again because they were liked. This was. Yes. But I liked the main vampire guy who did.
Yeah. The very cool guy, this super sexy.
Yeah. I mean, he was kind of fun in this.
He was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but
my favorite character in the whole manga we never got to see him in the anime, which is sad.
Izumi, was it?
Yeah.
But we didn't get to see Kaze either, so.
Yeah.
Well, that would definitely deserve a reboot. Guns, yeah.
It would definitely. I'm praying to God, even though I'm not religious, every day that we will get a treatment to this, like the Full Metal Alchemist treatment we got a few years back. That would be so amazing. But yeah, Last Hero Inuyashiki, I was really, it was a really, really nice adaptation. It's now over with 11 episodes. The finale hit last week, and it was amazing. Another thing is that it has one of the best Trump moments in manga and anime, where he's just like, yeah, we are all going to die tomorrow, so fuck you all. I got to be president. It's my second favorite moment, right after the one in Baki, where he shits his pants in front of standing of the guy that's the main source for Akuma in Baki. I like that as well.
So, well, anyway, I still haven't got into it. I have to be honest, the CG is kind of off-putting.
Yes, it is. Definitely.
Which
it doesn't look good.
Harder to watch it.
But I gotta tell you, if you read the Guns manga, you know this already, but the Guns author, Hiroya Oku, he works a lot with CG in his works. In his original mangas, there's a lot of CG works, and he likes that. So it kind of makes sense for them to work a lot with CG. And I also like that they didn't exclusively do a CG anime. So it's only like some parts are CG, and these few parts I'm fine with, because it's only like one or two characters that get to be in CG, and it's okay. It doesn't look good. Don't get me wrong. But it's not that off-putting that it got me in an angry mood or anything. I could still watch it.
So yes, we're done with your anime picks, right? So let's get onto mine. So we talked about the Ancient Mage's Bride already.
Yeah, sure.
So that's on my top list. Very looking forward to seeing the rest of it. Then, even so, I put Fate Apocrypha on my bad list. The fight Kana vs. Secret I'm still putting on my good list.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because it was an independent web animation studio that did this fight. So the credit doesn't go to Apocrypha, but to the studio who did this anime fight, and it is really well animated. Many people complain because again they do take screenshots of single frames, and because some of these frames do not have good details or look weird. But if you watch it as in its entirety, the animation is really, really well done. It's really well flowing into each other.
Yeah.
And especially, I think if they did something right with the Apocrypha animation, it's Kana's animation. I think they really nailed the style of this character, of this Indian heroic spirit. And I especially love he has a line where he says, "A true hero can kill you with his eyes," and he basically shoots beams from his eyes. But it's also so cool looking and really suits the character that this fight is entertaining to watch. It's like that one good fight in a terrible anime.
Well, okay, sure.
So we talked about Boku no Hero. So another good anime that aired this season is Recovery of an MMO Junkie. It's really down to earth, but it really delves into an interesting situation because the main character is a 30-year-old Fuyoshi who quits her day job because that's annoying and becomes a NEET who plays MMORPGs the whole day. And she plays as a male character. And here, and the interesting part is it kind of develops, as the name suggests, not only a social recovery of her, but also it's interesting to see because her love interest is a guy who plays a female character.
Yeah.
And so for the first few episodes, they don't know that, and it's really not only entertaining to watch them, but uplifting. You know, especially if you yourself have trouble with, interacting with other people, being socially active, or being an introvert, then I think this anime is really helpful. It really, really pushes your motivation to live and to interact with people. It may be a bit cliched, but I think it's a good kind of cliche.
Okay, nice. I'll definitely check it out. I still have it on my watch list.
And I think a lot of people can appreciate that the main character is a 30-year-old woman that's already was into, life as a working woman. So you can really well relate to her.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also a 30-year-old woman who plays too many MMOs, so
you're not a woman. Just because you have long hair doesn't mean you're a woman.
I know. I think I think it's also I think it's very cool to have to sometimes have a character that's not 14 years old in an original anime. That's really cool.
Yeah, and there's as I said, there's a lot of relatable stuff. For example, when she goes buy stuff, she like cosmetics that she really doesn't use that much anymore, and then she just compares how many loot boxes could I get from that, and you really say, okay, that were 11 loot boxes, okay, that were 25 loot boxes, and she just compares everything to how much could I get in-game stuff. It's just so funny and relatable to if you have to buy stuff you don't want to buy but just have to, and compare how much of that food I could get for that money, or how much could I get, how much many video games could I get for that money. And it's relatable in that aspect. You feel like, I've done that before too, like I compare stuff like that. And it's kind of, it is funny, it's heartwarming, and very charming. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
So, and my favorite anime of the year, we talked about it before, and it's still Recreators. I still think it's really, really great done show. It has great music by Hirano Sayuki. That was his name. He's well known for his bass-driven epic music. And the animation looks great. And as I said, I really love the story concept of fictional characters being summoned into the real world. And this anime really does it well because it really explains how these mechanics work.
Yeah.
How these characters interact with their different powers, and how these characters in the real world start to develop an own personality beyond what they're written, but they're still kind of bound to their original personality. So if it's an honest-to-God magical girl that wants to protect the innocent, while she develops kind of more than just a black and white personality, she still is like, okay, I try to save everyone, even the bad guys. And I really like the consistency of the show. And I really like the final, where several things happened that I wasn't expecting. There were two things I wasn't expecting, two plot twists that really got me. And with plot twists, I mean just specific character things that happened. This show is predictable, but that's okay, because this whole show is about how stories work, why they're interesting, and what and for example, I did complain about bad plot twists. When there's no build up for a plot twist, then I think it's a cheap plot twist. Because a good plot twist makes you, okay, yes, they kind of introduced that concept, and you're surprised by the plot twist, but you know, yeah, they did put the hints for this plot twist in the story before. For me, that is a good plot twist. And Recreators really does that. And I really don't want to spoil the two things that surprised me, but the not the last, the episode before the last, the English language doesn't have a word for it, right? In German,
which one?
The word vorletzte, or the in
vorlast. That's the actual word.
Is it? Sounds
yes,
like a bad German translation, because
yes, but it's I know it's actually the word.
Yeah.
The vorlast.
Because there is no word for the day before yesterday, and we have words for that. And in English, this sounds just so weird. But yeah,
vorlast.
The episode 20.
The second to last. You can say the second to last.
The second to last, which I watched, which I sometimes just let it play because voice acting of the antagonist is so good in that episode, in the entire of that episode, which is just where you learn her motivation. And I can't really say anymore because it's spoiling, but I just love to listen to that episode again and again, and just when I do my cosplays or stuff, because just listening to her in that episode is so nice, and her voice is so it's just so touching my heart that that is just such an outstanding episode where not even that much action is happening, but just her dialogue between another character, which is a spoiler, is so well done. This might be one of my favorite voice acting moments ever. If I ever did a list with the best spoken voice acting, this would be on my top 5 probably. So if you really are into the mechanics of stories, not just really well explained mechanics and plot devices, I really recommend Recreators. Some people may be a bit annoyed because in the first 12 episodes there's like 3 fights happening, but never get a conclusion until the final battle. And I get when people are a bit annoyed by that, but I think really the mechanics of the show make up for it. And if you're into well-defined and really, really well-done world building, the show will entertain you greatly.
Okay, nice.
It's my anime of the year.
All right. Next up, we are gonna move to the second to last thing, which are video games. After that, we are going to talk about what are we most looking forward to in 2018. And when it comes to video games, I have a top 5. But first off, I'd say I have a few things that I still want to play are not on this list. Things like For Honor, Cuphead, and Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'm really looking forward to still playing. Especially Cuphead in the next few days. I have to play it because it's on the Steam sale now, and I get it. I know it's amazing. I still haven't watched a single video of it. I try to keep myself hiding from all the spoilers. I just want to play it for myself when I have the time.
Yeah.
Same goes for Horizon, but Horizon I didn't care as much because I already had a great open world game instead of Horizon, and I'm going to talk about it pretty soon in the top list. And yeah,
I have to say, I literally don't care about Horizon Zero Dawn. I think the praise for it is accelerated. But we will get to it later on with another open world. I will ask you a certain question, and we will see then.
Okay, sure. Okay, so first off, on my top 5 list, number 5, I have Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch. Mario Odyssey, man, what can I say? It touched my heart. It made me feel like I'm a little kid again. Only gripe I had with this game was that on the first playthrough, it's a little too easy. After that, on the end game, it really starts on the end game where it gets really challenging, and there it gets really fun. And yeah, I like the worlds, I like the cappy mechanic, and even the story is really fun in this one. I can't stop recommending it to people. Of course, everyone who has Nintendo Switch needs to own this game, and it feels like an old Mario in a new disguise, and it does so pretty well. Because we are a little short on time, I gotta get a bit faster now. But yeah, Mario Odyssey, what can I say? It's amazing. Number 4 spot goes to Tekken 7. Man, if it wasn't for Tekken 7, I think 3D fighting games maybe would have had a hard time now getting around the most biggest 2D fighting games that are now in on the tournament scene. Tekken 7 is doing something different. It already came out a few years back in the arcades in Japan, but this year it finally got its console release. What they did with the console release was that it has some new mechanics. One of those mechanics made it definitely for me the fighting game of the year, just because it's the slowdown mechanics. The slowdown mechanic does what it says. It slows down the game when a certain thing happens, and that's when you and your opponent you hit each other at the perfect same time, which happens a lot in these fighting games. And then you get a slow-mo mechanic, and you see in slow-mo which of you are going to hit first. And I just love that. If you're pressing the button at the same time and you see unfolding what's going on, it's just so much fun. It builds so much more hype. It's even for fighting games, for streams, Evo with Tekken 7 felt like a new Evo. It felt like new Evo finals. It was really, really something. I can't praise it enough. Of course, the normal mechanics, the graphics are amazing. The normal mechanics, it feels like Tekken should feel, and it has some interesting new characters. It gets interesting. It got interesting. How do you call them? Guest characters like Akuma from Street Fighter and Geese from King of Fighters. I don't really care about Noctis. But this is really, really cool, and everything feels right in this game. So yeah, that's my number 4 pick. On my number 3 pick, and I think Raith has a question for me now. It's Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yes, actually, my question is, because I said I don't give a fuck about Horizon Zero Dawn, after Zelda Breath of the Wild, Is there any point in playing any other open world game?
For me personally, maybe yes, there is, but in this year there wasn't anymore because after I played Zelda Breath of the Wild, I felt like um, I've played so much of it that I'm done with open world for now.
Here's the question why I asked this is because I don't give a fuck about open world games. I think they're kind of cheating and there's no really that much point to them. And
okay, I disagree, but interesting.
If I was like, Ian, look, I want to play an open world game, and then is there any point to playing an open world game when there's Zelda Breath of the Wild out, which is the most liked open world game of this year with all the open world garbage that's currently around?
I think the biggest reason for people to not have turned to Zelda is because they didn't want to buy a Switch for it, or they didn't own a Wii U. So that's why I can understand when people are turning their heads for Zelda, but
it's the most liked open world game of this year.
Yes, it is, and I can see why. I can definitely see why. But I also see that Horizon is getting very great review or got very great.
Yeah, and I don't get it. I don't think there's anything special about Horizon Zero Dawn, really.
Okay.
It's like it's part of this open world concept that's currently on. It's not that I have particularly something against open world, but it's just like isekai stories from animes. It's just like the only thing that's currently around and the only thing that's kind of good nowadays, which really annoys me. Like, try something different.
I mean, the only open world game I had played this year was Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, but you don't really have time to play more than one game, open world game, because they take a shit ton of time to completely. If you're a completionist, and I do like to play my games with completion, to complete them entirely.
I only do that on certain games where I really, really want that. Otherwise, I can have fun with a game without dropping 100 hours into it. But I dropped more than 20 hours into Zelda, of course.
And that's the thing. And then that's why I asked the question, is there a point in playing any open world game other than Zelda Breath of the Wild, if I wanted to?
I can't answer this question. Because I only played Zelda and I haven't played Horizon, and I haven't even watched a lot of Horizon, so I can't tell you. The only thing I can tell you is that there's one reason I can think of why Zelda is superior than other open world titles, and that is that in the normal open world game, you open up the map, and the map is full of little question marks, little dots that you can go there, little fetch quests, little somethings, and like the map tells you where to go, what to do. In this game, you open a map and you just see the map. That's it, like an empty map, and you can mark it yourself, or you can just look at it. You can it just tells you, hey, here's an area, you can explore it, do it with what you want. And I really, really like that.
I think you're misunderstanding my question. It's because it's more of a...
No,
it's not an actual question. It's much more a statement. I just personally think with all of the open world games that's currently around, if I wanted to, I would probably play Breath of the Wild. I'm not really into Zelda that much. And I'm even less into open world games. But I think it's just that point is that would I gain anything from these other open world games which Breath of the Wild would do, which Breath of the Wild wouldn't do better, I think with all the reviews and the ratings in these days is I just don't personally see the point. If I have this many open world games out there, why I wouldn't play the best one and be done with it. And that's a problem. Even though we have many game releases this year, open world is currently the cancer. You have shit like Assassin's Creed, which I wish would die. Assassin's Creed can just die. I don't need another one. basically
Yeah.
any game.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
Almost every AAA game now has an open world, which isn't even
Mm-hmm.
that well done. If it's a Destiny or if whatever,
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about it in the last podcast where we already said that, for example, Final Fantasy 15 didn't really need an open world. It could have been way better if it was just zones like any other Final Fantasy game and a world map, where you just get the feeling of exploring more in little zones than just to have this road trip in this one map.
And that's the point of my question, because I personally think if there's so many open world games and there's one game that does it the best, you don't really need the other ones. And that's just an example.
Okay, sure. I mean, I still kind of disagree because there are people that really enjoy these games, and there are people that like for example, there's the sister of my girlfriend. She's really into open world games. She really likes them, and she has played Zelda Breath of the Wild and Horizon at the same time, and she enjoyed both. So I can't, and I haven't played Horizon, so I can't really shit talk it or say that it's worse or it's not as good as Zelda. I have only played Zelda,
Okay,
so that's why I can only
stick
talk.
with saying, for me, open world in gaming is the same as isekai in anime.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, but what I wanted to say, we're really running short of time here. What I really wanted to say is that I miss this feeling in a video game that it's not always telling me where to go or what to do, and I can just, there's no wrong way of playing the game. Just like in the very first Zelda game, nobody told you that, oh no, you need to get there, otherwise you are playing the game wrong. That doesn't exist. And in this game, it's just the same. It feels amazing. It has a really cool soundtrack. It has a very cool feeling, a very nice feeling. And the only downside for this game, for me, is that it has too little dungeons. They are too fast. You are done too fast with them. The bosses are not that hard. And yeah, that's it. But otherwise, it's great, fantastic game. My number 2 game, and how could it not be? It's Nier Automata. Nier Automata is I don't even want to say that much about it. We already talked about it in the last podcast a little bit, and it's just amazing. It's Yoko Taro with his wildest dreams and Platinum Games delivering them. And
I have to say, I still have to play it.
Yes.
But it's
So
also a
I'm
game that
not going
takes
into-
a lot of time, like most Drakengard games.
Yeah. It will take its time. I mean, you need to have like 5 playthroughs for the game until you are really finished with it, which takes its time. And then you have a very long segment of text scrolling, like in the first Nier game. So, I mean, yeah, there are crazy things in this game, but this is why I love the game. Soundtrack is amazing there as well. Gameplay is very cool. It's not the best from Platinum Games, but it definitely has its strengths. And yeah, what else can I say? It's very fun. Please play it if you
one thing
if you want to get your.
That was annoying with the hype is I don't need any more to be cosplayers.
Dude, to be. I love.
It's a good design.
You know what?
It's a good design.
No.
But
Let me say something.
I
I hate that the hype for 2B exists so hard or existed so hard, because she's the kind of character design that I love the most. Like, I love white hair. I love things that look like maid uniforms. I have a thing for that. This is totally the style that I love. I would have loved to see my girlfriend cosplay as her, but now that everyone has done it, why would she even do that? So yeah, that kind of killed a little thing inside me, and I was a little like, why did it have to have this effect?
The problem is,
But,
this is again a cosplay that many people do because it's popular, but not because they're really into the game or the character.
No. This has nothing to do with the game. Most of the girls that cosplay this have not even played it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And that it's a bit sad.
Yeah, that's really sad. Yeah. Okay, next up, my game of the year, and I hope this is your game of the year as well. It's Persona 5 from Atlas.
Well, it's definitely in my top 5, but I don't really judge games anymore with ratings.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay,
but
sure.
But if I was to choose a game, it would be a different for the game of the year. But I agree, in my top 3, even Persona 5, I agree. Really good game.
Yes. We have talked about it before. It has an amazing soundtrack. I'm still listening to the soundtrack. I still have favorite moments in the game. I still have favorite characters in the game. Still my waifu is still Makoto. It feels like I'm still thinking about this game even 6 months after I finished it. I'm still thinking about the game, and I'm still stoked. I still think about what comes next, about the dancing games, everything. I really like it. I thank you, Atlas. This is an amazing experience.
I kind of have to give you a sad news again, just to remind you. But the anime adaptation next year is going to be by A1 Pictures.
Yeah, I know about that already, but I don't really care. I'm going to watch it, but or maybe I'm going to watch the first episode just to see. But I mean, it can't ruin the game for me, so I don't really. It can't do anything bad for me.
I mean, we talked 3 to 4 hours about it already on a podcast, so I think it's safe to say we said anything about it. What we like and dislike about the game, and
okay, so we need to wrap this up quickly. So we need to get your favorite games, and then talk about what we are looking forward in 2018. But let's go.
No, that's kind of mean. I have to.
I'm sorry. I already tried to be as fast as I can.
No, you didn't. Anyway.
What?
Yeah, there's still quite a bit left by me. So for one thing, a game which I haven't finished, but I played a lot with a friend, and that's the reason why I haven't finished it yet. Tales of Berseria. It's not the best Tales gameplay, but I really like the direction they're taking with the characters and the story. A lot of my favorite Tales characters are actually from Tales of Berseria, because with most Tales games I'm kind of bored with the kind of good-natured characters that I really don't like to see. These characters are a bit more egoistic and a bit more not evil, but much more self-focused. So I enjoyed following them much more. And it's again this where the main story is, makes them out to be evil, and I do like kind of this rebellion storylines. So I do like the direction Tales of Berseria is going, but they could improve the gameplay again. Some things were really reduced compared to other games of the Tales franchise.
This is the only statement that I agree on.
Really,
I hate the new Tales of games. I think they are all terrible.
Yeah, well, I thought Tales of Berseria was, with all the new games, Tales games, the only one that really got me interested. So, moving on, Danganronpa V3. I didn't know if I put it on the good or on the bizarre list, because most of the storyline was kind of boring, and most of the cases weren't really that great. It had, again, a really, really good plot twist at the end, like every other game. You know, with the second game, managed to even trump the first game's plot twist. And the third game managed to even trump the second game's plot twist. And kind of justified all the boring stuff beforehand with what it was showing. And I can't say anything, because anything would be a spoiler with Danganronpa V3. So I really can't tell you anything without completely spoiling you. I have to say I only liked a few characters. And after the plot twist, I don't know if you can do another Danganronpa game that would be able to top even that plot twist. I'm currently thinking that's not possible anymore after this kind of plot twist. So I'm saying a lot of plot twists, but that's really the main thing about Danganronpa V3. A few characters I really liked. Maki and her love interest I forgot the name. Really great characters. Yeah, but the main problem was this is really character-driven game, and most of the characters I didn't like very much. So the other two games were
that's too
stronger.
bad in a visual novel, right?
Yeah, well, visual novel elements and kind of
Okay.
bit with a bit of dating sim feeling. Not really dating, but this you can spend time with other characters and get to know them better.
Sure.
Good. One thing I haven't played yet, but I'm really glad that it got translated and it got me by surprise was Utawareru Mono. Mask of Deception is now available here.
Can you say that again?
Utawareru Mono.
Yeah, that's a hard name.
And really glad I played the first game, which was an hentai visual novel. Hentai, it had sex scenes, but it was a story visual novel. I really liked the anime adaptation of the first game, and
was it like softcore or really like straight?
It had porn scenes with the girls. The second game doesn't have anymore. After Leaf got rather well known, they stopped doing hentai, similar to Taimu, who also stopped doing hentai once they got more popular.
Oh, okay, I see.
And it's also not really needed in Utawareru Mono. And it got me by surprise when I saw it suddenly appear in the in the shops in the gaming section, and then it just was there, and I do like the fact that more Japanese stuff is now just available in this. And that's really great. Now, before I get to my two top picks for this year, one thing I really like to expand on is the Fate Grand Order. The American release happened this year. I'm really glad to be able to read actually all of the plot in English now, and not read fan translation or summaries of the story. It really gets that's the one gacha game I really was able to get into. And really, really enjoy it, and just being able to experience all the interludes and the bonding with these historical characters is just so well done. And the community, while there's a lot of shitheads, it's so great because almost anything gets fan arts, and everything that's happening has almost an entire artist dedicated to it. There's for every ship that happens, there's like one artist that only does fan art of this ship, and so in that aspect the community is really great, and I'm really happy that the English release is doing well. Now,
yeah, I mean,
now to my two topics for gaming. Now, I don't really count visual novels as gaming, but it's available on Steam.
Oh no, don't. Let's continue to count them as gaming.
Yeah,
I mean,
I do it for this recap. So,
yeah.
My two top picks for this year are the visual novel of Dies Irae, which got an English translation this year, so it counts, and Super Robot Wars V. Now, Dies Irae, the visual novel, is a great opera of super-powered immortal Nazi generals versus trying to ruin normal Japanese teenagers' normal daily life. That's basically the main plot, but it's an incredible soundtrack. If I the soundtrack is on my cell phone the entire time and playing the entire time, and the entirety of the soundtrack I would say is even better than Persona 5, which I also am still listening to certain pieces.
Wow, this is a very strong thing to say. Better than the Persona 5 soundtrack.
I mean, the soundtrack is out for 10 years now, but just listening to it, it has so many classical pieces, many German classical pieces included. Really, really great adaptations of all things like the Götterdämmerung from Wagner.
Hmm.
The music is just great. I think it's much more action focused than Persona. You know, Persona has a certain style, and Dies Irae has a much more classical and opera styled soundtrack. So maybe
Okay, so maybe it's just a general
genre
taste thing.
yes.
Yeah.
But it has less. Dies Irae has less pieces, but I think these pieces are very strong that you don't need anymore.
Yeah.
And the reading experience was great. And there are some slight mistakes in the translation, but nothing too bad, I personally think. And just reading all of the routes, I was so hyped. And really, really, the battles are well described and really, with all the powers. One of my favorite characters is from Dies Irae is Shiro Yusa, who is a badass normal character that could be more badass normal. He's able to fight, even defeat one of these super-powered Nazis, which really goes to show. I really love that when there's a normal character defeating someone without any really special powers. And, you know, without spoiling, it's also, again, hard to say, but if you're into...
I mean, you already talk about it on Twitter all the time because you love it that much. Guys, follow at Fluffy Raith at Twitter for your daily DZRA news or tweets. But yeah, we already saw. Yeah, you really like that.
And yes, so I'm now a Dies Irae fanboy. And as I said, the synopsis of the show is super powered immortal Nazis are trying to ruin a normal Japanese teenage guy's daily life. That's the perfect description for this battle royale.
Okay, sure. Let's take that.
If this sentence is enough to get you, then that's exactly what you get, more or less. Well, and the other, the actual game, Super Robot Wars V, which is the first proper English release of a Super Robot Wars game. There was one before, but that translation was absolutely terrible. This one is not. And one of the main series it features is space battleship Yamato, which is kind of the main storyline. And you know, before there was Kingdom Hearts, before there was all these crossover games, there was one game and it's called Super Robot Wars. Especially Kingdom Hearts is copying a lot of stuff which Super Robot Wars was doing, with creating an original main character, and all the other shows, all these other mecha shows are aligned to it. But unlike Kingdom Hearts, all the shows are equal to each other and not, you know, in the background when the main battle in Kingdom Hearts is again the original characters. No, everyone is equal in the games. It's a good game to start in. It's a bit easy. That's a bit disappointing, but it's good for newcomers to get into the game, into Super Robot Wars in general. And another recommendation I'm doing is, because this features Space Battleship Yamato, and because Crunchyroll is currently releasing Space Battleship Yamato on Crunchyroll for English audiences, it's perfect place to start with it, because you can just watch the anime to this great edition on Crunchyroll. And it's...
Okay, nice.
If you're into mechs and if you're into tactical RPGs, then this is the perfect game you can get. It's my favorite gaming franchise, and I really love it.
Okay, nice. So that's it for games, or
yes,
do you have anything?
Actually done. I had to rush because of you, but I did. So,
I mean, I love you for that. That's awesome. And let's talk about the things to wrap it all up on what we are looking forward in 2018. For me personally, it would be we just got the news out that Hinomaru Zumo is getting an anime next year, which is fucking fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. It's a Shonen Jump title. It's a sports manga about sumo. I really love the art design. Yeah, just looking forward to this anime, and the next anime I'm looking forward to is the Baki. Finally, I hope it's going to be a good Baki anime that we finally get after, I don't know, 30 years. After the second one, which just sucked. We're probably getting a very cool one from Netflix, and I can wait to see that. Um, what kind of animes are you looking forward to, Wraith?
Well, one we are both looking forward to is Overlord Season 2.
Yes.
I've already seen the books, so but I'm still quite intrigued in seeing it animated. I mean, I have my cosplay ready for Overlord 2, so of course I'm going to read it again next year.
Yeah, of course.
Well, let's just. There's not really much to say. I think, once it airs, we are going to talk about anyway. But yeah, really cool that it actually gets a second season.
This is the thing, because my brother was he was so angry about it that it didn't just right off get a second season, and I was like, maybe it won't get a second season because it's just a promo for the novelty. That's often how things in Japan work. But he was like, man, no, we need a second season. This is just unacceptable. And yeah, he's extremely happy now that we finally get the second season.
So yeah, well, then the second season of Nanatsu no Taizai, or the Seven Deadly Sins. Really happy that it finally is coming, because I'm planning to cosplay also a character from the show, and I'm really looking to have colors to get the clothing I need for doing it, which is really helpful. But I think the arc is extremely well drawn. It's really, really great. So I hope they manage to at least somewhat decently be able to animate it, because there were so many great panels, and we already talked about it. But I really hope it at least somewhat can hold my expectations. But the first season wasn't too shabby looking, so I'm looking forward to it still. Then you can interrupt me if you have any other anime you're looking forward to?
And anime wise, I think I'm done for now. Maybe I forgot some, but I'm not extremely sure. I'm just looking over at the anime seasons for winter. I mean, sure, there's Citrus, but the only reason I'm looking a little bit forward to Citrus is because my girlfriend is reading it, and I read the first volume. I think it's okay. Maybe the anime will be fine, but I'm not really sure. Also, there's Dagashi Kashi 2, which, Dagashi Kashi, the first one was fun, but I really only like the main character.
Yeah, here's the thing with Dagashi Kashi. I don't really look it, but I'm probably going to look the artworks for the main character up, because if you ask me about best anime designs I can think of, she would be
my
there.
girlfriend my girlfriend knows that I have a thing for maid looking girls, right? And she's one as well, and she got me last year for my birthday. It was just a little, she had a real present for me, and then she had a little joke present for me, and the little joke present was a body pillow with her. And it was little, I don't know, ecchi. How do you call it? It was soft erotic. That was a fun.
Good girlfriend. No, but really, I think if you ask me about the best anime designs, even though I perhaps haven't seen the show, I think her character design is just a good design in general. It's really, really good.
She looks fantastic.
And well, other animes I'm really looking forward to is the Fate Extra adaptation, Fate Extra Last Encore by Shaft. Normally, I'm not a huge Shaft fan, but after Apocrypha, I need a good Fate adaptation again. And just looking at the promotional material that they done, it looks good. So I'm faithful that this is actually going to be a good Fate adaptation. I really need one, a good one. After that, we did say that A1 Pictures has an anime in every season, and Darling in the Franxx is a combination between A1 Pictures and Trigger. Now, a good anime studio with a bad anime studio I'm still kind of looking forward to it because it's Trigger.
Okay, yeah, let's just see what's going to happen
and
with
it's
that.
Max, so I'm right at home. So I hope Trigger is directing A1 Pictures in the right direction, and maybe they learn something.
Yes.
I
Dude, I'm just seeing right now that Basilisk is getting a sequel anime, and I totally didn't see that coming.
what is getting a sequel?
Basilisk is getting a sequel anime, and I completely never heard of that.
I
But
did too, but I also have not
wow.
really seen the first season in a long time.
No, I mean it's not really about the but it's I mean the manga just ended, you know, so I don't not just ended, but it ended, and I didn't really see that you can do much more of it. But okay, so I'm looking forward to that as well, I guess.
But good to know. One thing, Netflix is about doing 30 new animes next year, but there are some I'm really looking forward to. For one thing, Devilman Crybaby. Anything with Go Nagai I'm going to watch, because Go Nagai is involved in this adaptation. So I'm not really... I don't think it's going to be bad. It's not going to be for everyone, because Go Nagai stuff nowadays is usually not for everyone. But at least he's most of the time doing something unique. Even if he's rebooting his own franchises, they're always different. And an anime we are waiting for Eternity, which is also funded by Netflix, is Violet Evergarden by Kyoto Animation. What do you need to know about it? It looks pretty as fuck. And that's most reasons to start a KyoAni show. I have to be honest, in the last 10 years, they didn't really do many animes I liked. The last one I really, really liked was Hibiki Euphonium, which to me was what K-On! Should have been, which was a really, really good school story about the music club trying, the school orchestra trying to win the nationals. Had really, really great moments. A lot of things I disagree about with other people, but anyway, just looking at the trailers for Violet Evergarden, it looks so beautiful that I have no choice but to check it out. So and since it's so long in production, I really hope it can hold all the expectations. And
yes.
Have you anything you look forward to? Then I would get to my last thing I look forward to.
You can, I mean, anime wise or
General.
other things? General. I have a few things left. I have one thing is the 20th Dragon Ball movie. I hope this is going to be something cool. Otherwise, it's when it comes to video games, I have Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is coming up at the end of January. I'm going to play it. I'm going to fucking lose my mind over it when it's out. I'm never going to stop playing it. So maybe no more podcasts when this game comes out. We'll see. And after that, I mean, I saw the first trailer and I think it looks okay so far. Avengers: Infinity War Part 1 looks cool so far, and maybe it's not going to suck. I mean, we don't know. I'm going to watch it. I think it's not going to be as bad as Justice League.
We'll see.
And yeah, I think that's it for me.
So one last thing I'm looking forward to is, well, something kind of mentioned already, but the Japanese version of Fate Grand Order goes into its second story part. Because the first story is actually finished. And they're really, really teasing it out. Because now at the end of the year, the main station where you were, Chaldea, is empty. The lights are out. And like none of your servants is currently there. It's completely empty. And some asshole did take over it, did buy the whole structure, and you're just standing there now, not knowing where it's going. Where is the story going in the second part? Because the first part is finished, and the new informations are coming exactly at 0:00 Japanese time.
Nice.
And you know, this is really building up expectations, and we don't know what's coming. And this is kind of the best thing to look forward to a new year. When the New Year's Eve is, you will find out what is happening to all your characters, what is happening to the story, what's up next. And I actually like the fact that in this gacha game, the first part of the story is finished. Like, it's done. You know, you can do an hand adaptation of the first part of the story and have the whole game basically of that first part. And with a lot of gacha games, you don't get that really. You don't even get an actual good story to read. And the thing about Fate Grand Order was that the first few story chapters weren't that good, but with every chapter they adapted to the mobile gaming format and were able to get always a better story in the next chapter. So it's really a development and evolution of the story. And that's why everyone is hyped for part 2, because the game is literally called Fate Grand Order 2. And even they upped the requirements, which is sad for some people, because your phone or your tablet needs to have at least 2 GB RAM now to be able to play it. But on the other hand...
Well, I mean, most PCs do have that.
Yeah, but we're talking about cell phones and tablets. Well, tablets do usually have that, but phones do not necessarily have that. But, I'm fine with it, because that kind of means that the game, that they really try to update the graphics. Because what other reasons do you need to update to 2 GB RAM if you don't want to make better graphics? And it was already visible with this special attacks, the Noble Phantasms, that in the beginning they weren't really that great looking, and now you have whole animations in them, really, really good animations. Yeah. And I really see why they need to update this, and that way I really can count it as a new game almost. Like, maybe the gameplay doesn't change, but they're really trying to improve everything around it, and it really gives me the feeling of this is something new in the new year, you know? With starting with New Year Eves, there is a new experience awaiting me with the game, and that's...
Which is pretty cool, yeah.
And just... to me, that's just the best excitement to start a new year, when you get something really new at the first day of the new year. And so I'm really looking forward to it in 3 days' time.
Okay, nice. Alright, so I think that's it for our recap of 2017. Guys, we are so happy that you listened to us for this year, and we are going to continue in the next year, 2018, to enjoy you more with our sexy voices in this podcast. I've been here with my buddy Raith. Please follow him at Fluffy Raith, and my name is Sammy. Follow me at Sunset Law. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, whatever. We wish you, how do you say that in English, to wish someone over to the next year? Have a nice... Yeah. No. I mean, the other thing. I mean, have a nice New Year's Eve, guys. And yeah, stay safe. Goodbye.
See ya.